said. Solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to Friday. All day long, y'all. It is Friday, and we got a sound effect for that one. Hit it, man. Friday! Yes, it is. Yeah, well, I'm sitting here in studio way overdressed for radio, but JP looks comfortable, and he's ably pushing buttons on the board.
I mean, what else is new? You're overdressed for radio. I'm dressed,
I had to wear my lawyer uniform this morning.
Yeah, well, this is a lot better, less casual than what I wore to Dale Jackson's show every morning. It was, I've upgraded my wardrobe since then. I'll just say that, yeah.
That's okay. Dale came in like half dressed anyway, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, okay. Not for Grand Council. He was in a tux. So
that's true. I was taken aback by this. He was the one wearing the lawyer uniform.
Yeah.
All right, hey, we got a great show laid on for you. I'm pretty stoked you guys are going to meet some people today that I've had a chance to know a bit for a while, but they've had their own radio show called Alabama Unfiltered for quite a bit of time. And Allison Sinclair and Amy Beth Shavers are also rabble-rousers. They are out there. They're ruffians, y'all. They get out there and they get in the mix and get in the fray and do all the stuff. And so we're going to have Allison Sinclair and Amy Beth Shavers right here in studio coming up in a few minutes. And I'm looking forward to it. And we'll just see how that goes. And then coming up at the beginning of hour number 2, Katherine Robertson, who has been on the show before. Katherine Robertson and I both were on staff at the Alabama Policy Institute at one point. She is now the Deputy Attorney General, and she is one of the lead candidates to run for Attorney General in the wake of Steve Marshall leaving the office. So, yeah, Katherine Robertson will be here on the air with us at 3 p.m. And then at the beginning of hour number 3, because we're not done yet, you know the deal. It's Friday. JP on sports, man. Got to do a little JP on sports. So that'll be coming up beginning of hour number 3. And then there's still a triple dipper. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. First one I'm coming out the gate with, I'm calling it Blue City, Red State. Blue City, Red State. Listen, if you're not familiar, there's a study that was done recently of all of the most crime-ridden cities in the nation. And liberals are trying to say, see, they're in red states. They're in red states. No, they're blue cities. It's like saying Birmingham is in a red state. We know that. Everything about Birmingham politics is Democrat. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Blue City, Red State. That's coming up number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, I didn't get to it yesterday because yesterday was so jam-packed. But we'll jump on into some woke wars. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper. Woke wars, like we're actually pushing back, like we're fighting, like we're making sure they know that we are trading blows in the woke wars, number 2 on the Triple Dipper. And then number 3, I don't know if you've seen some of the things that are happening right now. I know you have. Who am I talking to? But like yesterday in Portland, Oregon, Antifa out in front of the federal courthouse with a guillotine calling for the death of ICE agents. Look, I got news. The only reason they're doing that is because Trump is president. That's why they're doing it. And Trump derangement syndrome is real. And that's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. Trump derangement syndrome is real. Yes, it is. Well, look, I'm going to jump on into the Rightside Way opening monologue. I'll remind you guys, as always, that the Rightside Way brought to you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald. Stan McDonald, 30 years practicing law in North Alabama. Oh, by the way, longtime conservative, been in the mix, been in the fray on all the things that Rightside ruffians care about, and your daily sponsor of the Rightside Way. All right, let me just jump in here and say, isn't it amazing how the progressive left will take something normal, even something special, and twist it into something completely the opposite of what it was intended to be? I mean, first of all, it's like they have no imagination. They have no creativity. So they just take something else and rebrand it instead of coming up with their own thing. Case in point, we've talked about it before, the rainbow. God's promise set in the clouds as a covenant between God and man that the great flood would never happen again. But if you bought a shirt with a rainbow on it and walked down the street right now, the odd looks and sideways glances you would get would be very telling. Why? Well, because the rainbow is no longer seen as a symbol of a loving God, but rather of the LGBTQ lifestyle. Look, down in Florida this past week, the state began making corrections on the use and abuse of the rainbow. The Florida Department of Transportation actually began removing rainbow crosswalks all over the state, and the left is having a complete conniption over it. Cities all over Florida are painting over rainbow crosswalks, and protesters are showing up with chalk and paint and recoloring them again and again and again. And U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, he issued a statement. Part of what he said was, roads are for safety, not for political messages or artwork. And I got to ask you, by the way, has it ever crossed the mind of any of the rainbow crowd that they could just purchase a billboard the same as the rest of us and put up their stolen rainbow images, and then no one would have to walk on it or get arrested for a hate crime for doing a donut on it? But yeah, back to my original point. It's really amazing how often something that has pure motives or positive history or meaningful purpose can be construed to be just the opposite when the left gets a notion. I mean, how many statues have been torn down to satisfy leftist zeal? How many times has the rainbow been used to symbolize the cult of LGBTQ activism as opposed to the original intent of God's covenant to man? Military bases were renamed during the Biden BLM purge so that the perpetually offended people on the left can feel less offended for a few minutes until they find the next shiny thing to be offended about. Like, for instance, here's one, the Reconciliation Monument at Arlington National Cemetery. Have you seen that? Nothing screams like a pannikin in a cemetery, let me just tell you. Can you imagine going into any cemetery and taking down memorials and headstones and throwing away the flowers? Can you? No, but the left can. The Reconciliation Monument, y'all, is a beautiful, massive bronze and marble sculpture created and installed back in 1914. Congress, not a president, but Congress had decided to authorize the burial of Confederate veterans at Arlington, and Reconciliation Monument was installed as a symbol of the healing that our nation had gone through. It was a symbol of national unity. But the Panikins couldn't have that. They rebranded it as a hate monument. They altered history, and they had the monument torn down. But 4 weeks ago, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, he announced that the Reconciliation Monument has been reconciled once again and is being restored, refurbished, and reclaimed. And it will soon be back in its proper place right there at Arlington National Cemetery. But I got to tell you, there's few things that draw the ire of the left more than something that expresses both faith and patriotism. I mean, seriously, if you have a symbol of faith, like a menorah or a manger scene set up at a city hall, they're coming for you, I tell you. If you dare to speak of your faith in God while an elected official, then you are a heretic bent on demanding conformity. And the same is true of patriotism. If you love this country and what it stands for, and you decide to fly the flag on your front porch, you might hear from an aggrieved member of your homeowners association. Or if you dare to wear a hat with the Gadsden flag on it that says, "Don't tread on me," well, you must be a right-wing racist. But faith and patriotism, when you mix them together, whoo, boy, you are due to be put on a no-fly list at that point. May have a late-night visit from an armed agent of the state. Who knows? Yeah, there's one symbol, though, that actually does that. There is one symbol I can think of off the top of my head that does, in fact, mix the two, both faith and patriotism. And it draws heat every single time it's in public. Sitting on the shelf behind me here in the studio is a small desktop version of a symbol that I'm talking about. It's a flag. It's the kind of flag that is sometimes referred to by the naval historians as a jack. It's a plain white flag, and the centerpiece is an evergreen tree, and the words "An Appeal to Heaven" are on it. Back in 2022, Rolling Stone magazine published an article entitled "Meet the Apostle of Right-Wing Christian Nationalism." Wow. The man they were writing about is someone named Dutch Sheets, somebody who I actually have a great respect for. Dutch Sheets actually publishes a daily devotional. You can go online and find it. It's called Give Him 15. You ought to check it out. But the Rolling Stone editors, they don't care for him at all. He's what they've branded a Christian nationalist because he dares to call for Christians to get involved in their government. And Dutch Sheets is a man of history. He has more than once written about the significance of the Appeal to Heaven flag. Well, Rolling Stone went on to try and trivialize the Appeal to Heaven flag in the article because of the fact that Dutch Sheets writes about it. They claimed it was purely for secular purposes, that it was, quote, flown at times by George Washington and the Continental Navy. But as per usual, the truth of something that bore signs of faith and patriotism was actually far more significant. Let me tell you the history. In 1775, George Washington was working to convince the Continental Congress that they needed a navy to counter the British ships that were bringing troops and supplies in from England. And as politicians have always done, the Congress got mired down in debate, so General Washington just decided to go ahead and foot the bill himself. He actually funded the effort to build the first 6 schooners for the Continental Fleet. There was a tradition at the time for naval vessels to fly the flag of their nation and their own jack, that Navy flag, the maritime flag of their Navy. Well, a man by the name of Colonel Joseph Reed, an aide to Washington, he suggested the flag ought to be like a stark white with a green pine tree in the center and the words "Appeal to Heaven." Well, the flag was approved. and the Appeal to Heaven flag became the first naval flag ever used on American ships. The tree on the flag was said to represent the Liberty Tree in Boston, a large elm tree where protesters of English rule used to gather in the public square. But pine trees were actually very common in the shipbuilding industry, and the British had actually passed a law reserving all the tallest pine trees for their own ships to be used as masts. So the pine tree symbol had several meanings. The phrase "an appeal to heaven" was actually taken from a famous writing by an English philosopher named John Locke. You've probably heard of John Locke. He wrote several things that were inspiring at the time. One was called the Second Treatise on Government. Locke's works had a huge influence on the founding fathers. And in his second treatise, at one point, Locke had written this. He said, "For wherever violence is used, an injury done, though by the hands appointed to administer justice, it is still violence and injury, however colored with the name and the pretenses or the forms of law. War is made upon the sufferers who, having no appeal on earth to right them, they are left to the only remedy in such cases, an appeal to heaven." That's where the phrase comes from. It comes from John Locke, writing about the injustice being done to the colonies and suggesting that we should appeal to heaven. Well, the flag became extremely popular, and before the signing of the Declaration of Independence in July 1776, the flag with its appeal to heaven phrase on it was seen all over the colonies. In late 1775, it is documented that General Israel Putnam's troops at the Battle of Bunker Hill used a flag with the same motto. During the Battle of Boston, the floating batteries that were out in the harbor flew the white pine tree flag. And in January of 1776, Commodore Samuel Tucker flew the flag while successfully capturing a British transport ship which was attempting to relieve the British forces in Boston. Y'all, this is history. This is real. This is a symbol of faith and patriotism of the founding fathers and the men and the women who first stood in the gap to forge this nation. But none of that matters to the left. Somebody saw the appeal to heaven flag flying in the crowd on January 6th, and oh no, can't have that. So in March 2022, a left-wing activist named Andrew Seidel, he runs that infamous organization called the Freedom from Religion Foundation. He delivered a 56-page report to the so-called Select Committee to investigate January 6th. You remember them? Oh yeah, the Select Committee. Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, the whole barrel full of monkeys. Well, Seidel gave them his report, and it was entitled Christian Nationalism and the Capitol Insurrection. God almighty. Seidel opened up by saying Christian nationalism is the biggest threat to America today, an existential threat to a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And it just gets better from there. Seidel actually stated unequivocally in his screeching report that Christian nationalism was the central driving force on January 6th. Wow. He went on to say, too, that with regard to the symbols of faith and patriotism, that the Christian nationalist, in his words, draws their legitimacy from artifacts left by previous waves of Christian nationalism this country has endured, and these relics, he said, are disfiguring scars. Somehow, too, he also invoked racism. I'm not sure he got there. And on page 17 of his report to the January 6th Commission, he had a picture of the appeal to heaven flag. That's part of what he was talking about. Okay, so what's my point? My point is this. This is history. This is faith. This is patriotism. There is no justification for branding this beautiful piece of our historical resistance as being somehow tantamount to domestic terrorism. But that's what they do, because if the left can't bend you to their will, then they will brand you for the kill. That's the deal. An appeal to heaven. We would do well to take a lesson from the men who first flew that flag when our nation was being founded. And it's not a small thing, y'all. And if the left can steal our history and brand our faith-based patriotism as being somehow radical and dangerous, well, then what else can they get away with? It's a flag, yes, but it means so much more than that. And I might actually get a bigger one for the studio now. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, there you have it. The appeal to heaven flag. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It really is a huge piece of history, but it's faith, it's patriotism, all in one. And oh, by the way, it's real. It was flown by the patriots who gave us the country that we now have. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. I believe the interview we just had with Mike Durant, author of In the Company of Heroes, the pilot who was shot down in Black Hawk Down. He became a national icon, an international icon really, as images of him being held captive in Somalia were transmitted around the world. The way he tells his story, though, is as amazing as his story. So sit back, enjoy your time, hear about things that you're going to think about for the rest of your life after this discussion we're going to have with Mike Durant on the Just Right podcast. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Hey, Mike Durant, thanks for being here today.
My pleasure.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm honored to have you. And listen, I'm going to run through just a quick intro of who you are so folks know who I got sitting across from me. All
Sure.
right? Some of this is going to be unpacked in more detail, but I know for a fact you were born in New Hampshire, but you call Alabama home, have for a number of years. 22 years active military. First enlisted, I think, in 79?
You got it.
Weren't you a Spanish linguist?
I was.
Yeah.
And don't ask me to speak Spanish. They taught us to, the school that I went to, the focus was to just be able to understand it, not speak it. So I can still understand a little bit, but I'm not a very good speaker.
Did some intercept work down there in Panama, right?
I did.
Yeah. I got family ties there. My grandfather was post commander. It was at Corzal, I think it was one of the years ago. Became a warrant officer in '83, which I still don't understand the warrant officer mafia. I never knew whether you guys got saluted or what was going on with that. But anyway, warrant officer in '83, flight school, Fort Rucker. 5 years later, you were selected for the elite 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers, which we're going to talk about in a lot of detail. 3 distinguished flying crosses, Bronze Star with a V device, Purple Heart, and fairly rare in modern times, a Prisoner of War medal. And then you retired as a CW4, am I right? Chief Warrant Officer 4?
That's correct. 2 DFCs.
2 DSCs. Yeah. Well, okay, just 2. Got your undergrad and your master's from Embry-Riddle, is that right?
That's correct.
And built a successful defense contracting firm, Pinnacle Solutions, which you've retired from now. And you're married, and most importantly, you've had 6 kids.
We do.
Got your own basketball team.
Yeah, with some bench.
Well, good enough. Well, hey, thanks for being on the Just Right podcast. Appreciate you.
Again, my pleasure. I do always enjoy time spent with you. I think, we certainly have some common history, and you get it. And it's kind of nice to talk to people who get it, because when you talk to people who don't get it, it's a little bit frustrating, and you got to get drilled down into areas you feel like it's tedious, but with you, that's not the case.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you very much. And we'll just have to make sure we don't slip into acronyms or something like that.
Well, that is easy to do, and then you can lose a lot of folks that way. But I've gotten pretty good at trying to avoid that.
Well, let me ask you this. I want folks to get to know who you are as much as your story, because your story is amazing. I've got your book sitting right here in the Company of Heroes. I read it years ago, and I've had a copy on my shelf. In fact, I think I told you before the show, my son nabbed it. He's stationed down at Benning, so he's got it with him, so I had to get another copy for today. But let me ask you, how did it start with you in the military? You're a kid in New Hampshire. Why the military? I mean, what happened there that said, that's where I want to lead my life?
So, I characterize myself as a blue-collar kid. I mean, working parents, we were certainly not poor, but we weren't really well off either, and never saw myself as necessarily college material. I did fairly well in school when I tried, but I wasn't necessarily motivated to go to college. And I lived in a paper mill town, and a lot of people went to work in the mill. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need people to do that. That's, if that's what you want to do. But I just couldn't see myself doing that for the rest of my life. And when I was about 14, and it's about the time you start thinking about, what am I going to do when I get out of college? Doesn't keep you up at night, but, you start pondering that kind of stuff. I had a major turning point in my life. I went on a helicopter flight with a friend of the family.
No kidding.
His name is Joe Brigham. He was a warrant officer in the National Guard. He also had his own business. And as I found out later, I wasn't the only young teenager that he ever did this with. He took a few of us up that he wanted to try to inspire, and it absolutely impacted me. I mean,
no kidding.
We're flying over Mount Washington, which is the highest mountain in the Northeast. It's 6,280 feet. We're basically hovering. The aircraft was kind of primitive by today's standards, I guess I would say. It was kind of a glass bubble. If you remember the MASH helicopters, similar to that. And it's like you're just floating in space. And I'm looking at, like, again, I'd flown on a small airplane before, but never anything like this experience. And I said, you could actually do this as a job? And he says, yeah.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, before I go any further, I got to remind you guys that the text lines are indeed open, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Text it, call it, do both. But 833-687-4448. That's the number. And by the way, I got to tell you, too, the Right Side Way monologue brought to you every single day by attorney Stan McDonald. So let me tell you about Stan McDonald. I know the guy personally. I think he's a pretty cool dude. He's also a really good lawyer. So Stan McDonald, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law. And listen, he's not only like a good lawyer, but he's been in the mix on all the conservative policies and politics and things that right side ruffians care about for years. He's an OG ruffian from way back. But yeah, attorney Stan McDonald, he has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions over the years. Stan McDonald knows how to represent you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your adversaries would have no greater foe. So you need a lawyer in North Alabama. I'm going to tell you how to reach him. You ready? Attorney Stan McDonald. The law firm is Wilmer and Lee. And here's his phone number. You ready? 256-479-3020. That's Stan McDonald, Wilmer and Lee. He's an America First family man, 256-479-3020. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made the quality legal service is bad, because it's not. It's good. I wouldn't have him on the show if he wasn't. There you go. How you like it? Whoop, whoop. All right. How much time we got? I got time for a couple of texts. I think I do. Chef Ben. Hey, Chef Ben. Chef Ben, by the way, had a setback recently, and I'm glad you're still around, brother. Chef Ben and his mama Brenda tuned in. Glad of it. Thank you, Chef Ben. Tell Mama Brenda I said hello. Great monologue, he says. Thank you so much, sir. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, it's hard to make sense of how the liberal mind works. They'll sit there and call Christians terrorists and in the same breath stand up for radical Muslims. Go figure. You can't fix stupid. Jeff needs to come host the show one day.
I agree.
Mural from Hartzell says, great monologue. Love your show. You need to be with me tonight. We'll be thinking about you, Merle. Well, thank you, Merle. He sent a picture. Lord, Merle's smoking some, is that brisket? What are we looking at here?
What it looks like, 4 of them.
Brisket or Boston butt, I can't tell. But either way, it looks mighty fine.
Looks like enough for Merle to have one, and then me and you to have one.
Yes.
And
some leftovers.
Yeah, and some leftovers.
Break out in the meat sweats.
Go, hey, send them this way.
John from Huntsville says, Phil, spectacular monologue. Thank you, sir. Also, did you hear that a CSU professor has been charged with assaulting U.S. agents with their own tear gas? By the way, JP, did you hear that Caitlin Clark is out for the remainder of the WNBA season? I have a feeling their ratings are going to drop drastically. Wow.
I was reminded the WNBA season was still going on when I saw that announcement. So, yeah.
And then Joe in Tennessee says, thanks for the story on the first American flag. Betsy Ross was late to the party. Appreciate the real history. Thank you, Joe C. All right, listen, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stand back. We will be right back.
You could, if you join the Army, they'll send you to flight training, and you could do this as a career. And I'm like, okay, if this is a possibility for me, yeah, I'll take it. And ultimately, when I got old enough, I went and talked to the recruiter, and you probably heard the joke. You know a recruiter's line because their lips are moving. They have a quota. They're trying to fill certain slots.
Sure.
And there are programs that are available sometimes, and sometimes they're not. And he told me, sorry, but flight school program's not available for people coming right in off the street. You're going to have to join the military first, and then you can apply for flight school afterwards, which is all correct. But I didn't really know whether he was telling me the truth about, could I have applied to go directly to flight school? But either way, and another smart thing I did, and I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I have made some good decisions along the way, is I spoke to someone else about joining the military, and I think you and Jared had talked about this, or he did, and you don't want to just go join the military, right? There has to be a purpose to it. I mean, serving the country is noble and it's great, and we need people to do that. But for you as an individual, you should also be thinking about, what can I do with this in the life after the military?
Sure, absolutely.
And I was offered to go to, as we discussed before we got on camera, the Spanish language school in Monterey, California, to be in military intelligence. And how marketable is that? I don't know. But I was convinced that, well, they'll send me to school for a year to learn Spanish. I'll be a military intelligence analyst. That's probably something
Sounds sexy.
worth something. Yeah. and then I can possibly apply for flight school. Okay, we'll go ahead and sign this. And it was one of those cases where I had gone off to talk to the recruiter on my own and then came back to the house. I'd already signed the paperwork. My parents had not been informed at all. And they were kind of shocked, right? But I said, I think this sounds like a pretty good deal. Let's give it a try. And then I was stunned by the reality of basic training. I just,
no kidding.
I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I just wasn't.
But who really is?
Yeah, I guess no one is.
That's back when drill sergeants could be drill sergeants.
Yes, I mean it was quite a lifestyle change. Is all I could say. I mean, you're living in an open barracks with 20 guys that you've never met before from all over the country. They treat by design. They treat you like crap, right? I mean, it's probably not as bad as some of the other military training that goes on, but it's going from a high school kid with long hair and concert T-shirts on and didn't care about anything except girls and some sports. This is a radical lifestyle change, and I at that point was thinking I have made a mistake. This is not what I thought it was going to be, and I don't know what I did think it was going to be, but it certainly shocked me to the point where I was thinking about, I don't know if I can get out of this, but if I can, I need to.
Well, was there anybody in your life like you had this warrant officer from the Guard who gave you the flight in the helicopter? But did you have any military in your family? I mean, was there anything watching it as you grew up? Like my family's been generational Army, so my son watched 3 generations before him do stuff, and then he wanted to do it.
Right.
But did you have anything like that?
They were in the Guard. My uncles were in the Guard. My father was in the Guard. But to me, that's different. I mean, you just sort of see him, go once a month. Not that the Guard isn't a great,
No,
organization, but it's just
it wasn't a full life.
Right. And you still live at home. Unless you get deployed, obviously. But it was. I wasn't prepared. And I was, again, to the point where if I could get out of this, I need to, and was convinced that I should stay by the drill sergeant, and I did. And at that point, got like super motivated. I got like the PT award, physical training award of the whole class, and in basic training, I scored the highest, and just really got motivated that, okay, if I am going to do this, I'm going to do the best job that I possibly can. And then I went on to language.
You are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show. This show goes from like Huntsville back over to Chattanooga. I'm talking about Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world, going to the World Wide Web, dialing us in, watching on the live stream, seeing what color shirt I'm wearing, like every single day on X and YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then there's a ton of y'all that podcast after the fact. And listen, the bottom line is, I say it all the time, wherever you catch this show, it is greatly appreciated. The fact that you guys are out there is the only reason why JP and I do this. You make it worth our while. And so thank you very much. All right, I'm in the studio right now. This could be some kind of like craziness that's about to kick off here, but I've got 2 folks here. I don't know if y'all heard it because you were in the other room, but I said they're coming in and they've been rabble rousers for a long time, and that would be y'all. But Allison Sinclair, Amy Beth Shavers, thank you for being here, Rightside Radio. Do we have some applause for them? I think we should have some applause. Just thank you.
Real.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All the way from Birmingham.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
It's so pretty up here.
It's beautiful.
I've never really spent much time in Gadsden.
Oh, listen, you're missing it. The Coosa River, the mountains.
It's really pretty.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. We like it. Raised my kids here. Yeah. Came here. I'm originally from Huntsville. If I had to pick a spot, Dad was Army, so we're all over.
Mm-hmm.
But came here over 30 years ago to be the young life guy for Gadsden, and never left.
Wow.
It's
So-
a part of you that I had no clue. And I don't know how I missed it because we're so involved in Young Life in Shelby County
Yeah.
and have been for years. And so I love that. And then after you did Young Life, you then went to law school.
Oh, I'm here to talk about y'all. All right.
Oh.
so-
Yeah, but we
Yeah, but I can't.
wanted
I've
some
got to put it all
details.
together. I can't remember the timeline. So
So my schizophrenic resume is that so I spent the first 10 years after college working with kids. I was in counseling first at a adolescent treatment center. I went from there to full-time staff with Young Life after being a volunteer. And then after that, I felt called to go to law school. So in my 30s, I went to law school. Which
Of
was
course you did, Phil.
Certainly. Yeah, just like, wow, that was just making that as
it's
hard as
just
we can.
normal.
So worked by day, went to law school by night, got that done, just finishing up law school, and I got called to Afghanistan. So came back from that, started my practice, boom, got called to Iraq. So there's all that going on. But I practiced law now for 23 years. Then I felt like I was supposed to run for office. So I was in the state Senate and then worked for API, which is where I first met y'all.
Yeah.
And then lo and behold, sprang out of API with this gig.
Mm.
And I got a microphone now.
Living the life. Living the life.
All right. So you guys, listen, I want the audience to know that y'all are like ruffians from way back. All our people are Rightside ruffians.
Okay.
All right. So
I saw the T-shirts.
Love it.
Yep.
it's
It's
a-
official.
Indeed.
It's
It's
a
what
good
we are.
brand. You are. So am I right in saying that one of y'all or both of y'all were in that group that just destroyed the
I'm
the
scared.
school board and made sure they understood that we were not going to have wokeness in our schools? Wasn't that one of y'all's groups that did that?
Well, that was probably actually, yeah. Amy Beth always kind of comes alongside the pot stirring that I start or she starts. It depends on the day. But that one was us. That when I started Local Alabama,
Yeah.
right after COVID, kind of the 2020 election, the Summer of Love
Yes.
started
It's a lovely
local.
summer of love.
It was just so lovely, and it was on fire, and all the things that just portray love. But but one of the first things that we started with were the vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
And if you remember, in the very beginning of schools, they were like, they had the weird quarantine rules where, like, if you had the vaccine, you had to quarantine for 5 days. And if you didn't, it was 10. And so we started on that. But then what really, the Title IX kerfuffle that happened with wanting boys and girls locker rooms. And so local got involved in that. Amy Beth and I kind of took down the North Shelby Library together.
Yeah, by golly.
Yeah.
Who
This is
knew
very
that
fun.
libraries would be controversial?
I mean, can you even imagine? You'd go to the library to meet your librarian and get your little fuzzy. Did your librarians have the fuzzy worms? And she put them on her shoulder and read books to you. And it was just so soft and wonderful.
I
And
don't
here you
remember
have
worms.
drag queens in libraries. So Allison did local. We met during COVID, but she would work on something and then I would op-ed about it in 1819 News. And
Mhm.
so it was great fun to see everything that was going
Yeah.
on. Even some of the things that she would send my way that I would post would have warnings attached because it's hideous. And
That's
why
okay.
weren't more people
Mhm.
outraged by what was going on? But it's very fun to have a partner in crime.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, y'all are definitely like Thumb and Louise or something. I don't know. But,
I don't know what you call us. People ask what I do, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe just a professional pot stirrer. I don't really know what my title would be, but it's fun because actually I've never been in your studio, which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
But I have the very first radio interview I did ever was with you years ago.
That was your first one, really?
E-
I remember
ever.
that.
Ever. And we hadn't even had the radio show, like it wasn't even in my orbit. I remember for some reason I was in Columbiana and I was sitting outside a little store and I was like, I can't do it outside. So I went and sat in my car and I was so nervous. I had notes. It's like Phil Williams, I'm going on with Phil. And then of course didn't look at my notes once, but that was the very first interview I ever did.
Oh,
And
that's
now,
cool. I
yeah,
did not know that.
who knew? Yeah.
Well, and you guys have been doing radio. That was the next thing I was going to say. So you guys had a show, Alabama Unfiltered, with Bud that I served with in the state Senate, Scott Beeson.
Such a
and,
good guy.
He's a good dude.
Love
He's
Scott.
actually guest hosted for me before here.
Yeah, he's
um,
so good.
But he's great. So you guys did that for at least a couple of years or more, right?
We
How long
did. We
you do that?
started out as a podcast for 1819 and then it was born and became a radio show. And then kind of at the beginning of the summer, we both have 4 kids. Most of ours are all in college. Mine are gone. Allison has one left at home. And it just was the time that we're like, you know what? This is a natural breaking point.
Yeah.
And now we're in the great beyond to see what God has.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have a summer, wasn't it?
It was kind of weird. I like cleaned out all my closets. I did all my things.
Started a home renovation. I mean, why not?
You've been
Why
redoing the
not?
whole home.
And now here you are driving to Gadsden to be on the show.
No,
My
but it's
God.
we love it.
so fun. But when we were driving up here, I was like, do we remember how to do radio?
You remember how to do
Allison,
radio.
this is like training wheels. Like,
You're
we
just,
know how to
we
do
got
you're
this.
talking. You're just talking. That's what y'all do.
It is.
Talk
We're-
about the stuff.
Yeah. So what's going on? Because I've been out of town a lot. Well, keep going. We'll go with us. And then
Yeah,
I
let me
kind
ask
of
this
wanted
real
you to
quick.
tell us the news.
You started local. And now, Amy Beth, you were Miss Alabama 1994-ish?
I'm so impressed. Yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
1994, as Miss America is going on this week.
Yeah.
But I was the Miss Alabama who had the opportunity to become Miss Alabama right after Heather Whitestone.
Yeah.
And so that kind of began that whole speaking career of abstinence and character education in schools.
Well, that's what I was
And
going to say.
then
You
moved on
use
from there.
that platform for conservative values and issues and even faith-based. I mean, you didn't you write a book or
Yes.
co-authored a book, I believe?
Yes, co-authored. I did. I'm adopted, and my birth mother hid my pregnancy throughout her senior year of high school.
Wow.
And looking back, I think that takes such tremendous courage. Like I can't even wrap my brain around that. But in Miss America, as part of the program, you have to speak out on an issue. You have to pick one, and that's your issue, and you do all your work in that. And so mine ended up kind of going along abstinence and character education. But at the beginning of every talk, we were able to go in public high schools. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
To tell the truth, and churches and community organizations to tell my story, but then tell the kids the truth about abstinence and sex ed and what's really going on. And then from there, it just kind of grew. But every step of the way, you think, Lord, this is crazy. Like the opportunities that you're giving to tell the truth. You shouldn't let somebody like me do this. This doesn't make any sense. Like, do you know me? This makes no sense. But that's what God did. And then along the way, kind of always stayed involved, worked with API 2 different times.
Right.
And then the Lord was good enough to allow Allison and I to meet during COVID, and specifically with concerned doctors. And then our paths crossed in a Kohl's parking lot.
Oh, wait. Y'all were with Concerned Doctors? I'm a huge fan of Concerned Doctors.
Yeah.
Well,
So Dr.
yeah.
Jordan Vaughn and other folks in that whole, I mean, that's what an amazing difference those guys are making.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so that's how that happened, was that first event at the hotel.
Nice.
I don't even know why, but I think it was Jace Carnes.
Actually, I had to tell you were wrong earlier too.
Okay.
But you're wrong. Do you not remember we hosted the event with
Oh, yes, we did at Shoal Creek.
Jordan Vaughn
Yeah.
and Amy Beth and I? We brought in, we had protesters. It was awesome, but it was at Shoal Creek. And so I think that's why they don't let us meet there anymore. Like, talk about ruffians.
Yes.
That was us. We brought ruffians, but it was all COVID stuff with Jordan Vaughn. And
And then after that.
yeah.
So that was August, and then it was September.
Yep.
And then your local stuff was going along because all these parents had nowhere to go, no outlet. The Lord gave you a vision, which was incredible. And you have so many members doing great things. And here we are.
I got to ask you, I don't know this, so just tell me yay or nay, but were either one of y'all involved in a group of women from the Birmingham area? I think Rick Burgess's wife was in it too, that were sponsoring. Were you part of that? Y'all endorsed my candidacy in 2010.
Allied women.
Allied Women, that's what it was.
Yes.
Allied women,
Wow,
conservative
yeah.
women who banded together and said, we're gonna find the candidate we think is the most conservative. And I got to tell you a funny story. So Allied Women contacted me. I'm new to politics. I'm like, apparently you don't always start with the state senate, but I just did, so I'm like, okay, state senate, woo. So anyway, I'm in there running my race. I get a call and I'm told that Allied Women wants to sponsor or to endorse my candidacy. And I'm like, thank you. I love this. And they said, we're going to run an ad in your local paper with your photograph and just tell them tell the world that we endorse you. I said, great. Well, there was 2 Phil Williamses in the legislature.
Oh no.
There's a guy in the House from
Oh,
Huntsville and there's me in
no.
the Senate from Gadsden.
Oh, wow.
Well, y'all actually, I believe, endorsed both of us knowingly. I mean, you knew there were 2, except when I saw the ad come out, I was so excited. I looked at it and it had the wrong picture. So I called and I said, yeah, That guy doesn't live in Gadsden, and I don't remember who I talked to, but they said, "Oh, we're so sorry," and they ran it again with the right picture. But anyway,
that's
I
funny.
do remember. I remember the day that I could not come that day, but the girls loaded up in Sherry's van and came down here to
Sherry
meet
Burgess.
with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
There
Good
were a
stuff.
lot of women that were, I wasn't involved in politics in Alabama just yet then, but so many great women were part of that have gone on to do some pretty big things. It's
Absolutely.
impressive.
Well, y'all, we got to take a break right now. It is time for the break. So we'll take a break right now. I'm sitting in studio with two OG ruffians from way back, Allison St. Clair, Amy Beth Shavers, and Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Advanced individual training where they teach you how to actually do what you're
Right.
on contract to do. And then I went to Panama, and that's where my assignment was. And I'm a whatever at that point, probably an E3 enlisted private, and working in a military intelligence unit. And coincidentally, run across Manuel Noriega in the parking lot
In the parking lot
of because he was an
was there
MI
a food
guy.
truck, and y'all were standing in line together, or what?
No, but he was a military intelligence guy. So
Oh,
I was in a military intelligence unit, and at the time, he's only probably a major or whatever, but he was already pretty well known, and he showed up, and he obviously very easy individual to identify.
You were there later,
And then
saw him
years
again,
later, we
yeah.
go back and bag him. But anyway, so I'm kind of enjoying this military intelligence job. And then one day I'm sitting on the beach, and I know this is a really long answer to your original question, but I'm sitting on the beach, and these three Hueys fly low level right over the top of us with shooters in the back and their legs out the door. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how much I really want to do that. And so it sort of re-energized me. I applied for flight school, and I got in. Had I not gotten into flight school, I probably would have separated from the military, because I did like it, but I felt like there was something more. But getting to flight school was then a game changer.
All right, so you got to flight school. So warrant officer candidate, become a warrant officer. What W01, I guess. Go to flight school as a W01.
No, what's different today is that you actually get commissioned as a W1 pretty early in the pipeline. Back then, you didn't get it until you were done flight school. So you go
Okay.
through as a warrant officer candidate. And what it does is it changes your date of rank, is what it really does. I mean, you're still treated like you're an idiot, whether you're a W1 or not, but your date of rank changes.
You guys, but I made the joke earlier about the warrant officer mafia.
Yeah.
Y'all are as warrant officers, you're technicians, you're technical specialists. You have niche, basically skills and knowledge, but you're also this kind of in between that. Folks who are junior in rank or junior as officers always look at you like, I don't know what to do with you right now.
Right.
Can I tell you what to do? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And but y'all kind of ride in the middle a lot of times, it seems like.
And we're the ones that keep everything running.
And you are the ones who keep everything running.
Yeah.
There's the backbone of the Army and the NCO Corps, and then there's y'all that keep things running.
Right.
But all right, so you became a warrant officer. You went to flight school down at Fort Rucker, which is now called Fort Rucker again soon, it looks like.
Yeah.
But coming up, and we were talking about your raisings, so to speak, up there in New Hampshire. We're going to go forward into your story here in a few minutes. But what about being raised, where you were, who you were, with you or with, whatever else? What do you think instilled things in you that you wind up needing later on? Like, was it sports? Was it family? Was it faith? What did you see in your life that you looked later on like, I'm glad I had that because it built me up?
Yeah, faith is certainly part of it. Now, my faith journey had its ups and downs, and the lowest point probably being post Somalia, when looking back at what happened there, based on what we were trying to do, in my mind there was no justification for the horrors that occurred there, and I couldn't accept it, because it was horrible. I mean, there's not a lot of things I've witnessed that were as bad as what happened there. And we were there for all the right reasons. So anyway, but faith is certainly part of who I am, and it's come full circle. I think playing sports helped a lot too.
Was it hockey?
I played hockey. I played football. I mean, I wasn't great, but I played. And you learn about working and teamwork and your role in the organization to make the overall team a success. And those things to me are invaluable if you can learn them when you're young. So I think a combination of all those things.
Good enough. It's amazing sometimes what we draw on later. You don't even realize you've got it now. I can remember things as a kid that I didn't know that I grumbled about, and then later on you realize that instilled something.
Yeah.
So you went on though to do some pretty amazing stuff. So in the world of aviation, Army aviation, the 160th, which you're wearing the shirt right now.
I am wearing the shirt.
You are wearing the shirt.
By design.
Night Stalkers. So the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. I remember when I first got in, we called them Task Force 160.
Right.
But you guys were the premier Special Operations rotary wing guys. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, so I'm back in here with some ladies that have superpowers.
I don't know why I'm laughing.
They were fixing their hair before. We're on radio, y'all. There's no hair on radio.
There's a camera
Right there.
Okay, there's a live
Nope.
stream. You're right.
There's a live stream, and like headphones will do funky
We're not
things to your
30,
hair.
Okay. We
Yeah, we
have to
can't
just
fake it
make
anymore.
sure it's
Like,
okay.
Okay.
getting
You do a
old.
great job.
The
We
hair
do
looks
not
great,
want to
just so you know.
embarrass you.
Well, thank you.
Your hair
So-
looks really good too.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
you.
The headphones
I
don't
do
mess
get-
with your
I
hair.
did go. No, I get headphone hair every day.
And JP's hair is awesome.
JP's got the hair.
I got the best hair in the room.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
You don't understand what this is like.
I don't.
It's a whole thing.
Oh my gosh! All right, so let me ask you. You guys had Alabama Unfiltered, which I guess by name alone, you focused a lot on what was happening in Alabama politics and Alabama culture and life in general. Has there been a time when you were on the air and you were talking about a thing, and the next day you saw something you had said actually like get fixed? I mean, like you branded it, you called it out, you said something. I mean, I know local has.
Yeah.
But have you seen a time when you were on the air? Because there's times when I know for a fact I've been given a microphone and all of a sudden something gets said later and I'm realizing apparently I made a difference and didn't even realize it. That was so cool. There's times when this is both a blessing and a curse, but there's times when you get this opportunity to speak into culture is what I call it. And it actually seems to make a difference. You had those moments?
Yeah. I think we just have so much fun, and we had so much fun with Scott Beeson on Alabama Unfiltered. Sometimes you would have to stop and remember the responsibility you have because people are listening. And it was always wild to me. You'd get a text from someone, you're like, whoa, yeah, the higher ups are paying attention. So there's some responsibility with that to continue to speak truth and to be responsible and measured with your words. But I do know there were several times that all of a sudden people would start talking about things that you had talked about, or you'd see a little bit of movement in the legislature, or you would have, you know, state reps and senators and people reaching out, maybe wanting to know more or talk. So yeah, but it was great. And I love, because we just love radio. We have so much fun, but you are moving the needle.
Yeah, I believe you are. Yeah. I mean, I absolutely believe that this and the podcasting element and the written word, they are still effective. And I like to say that my calling has been to impact culture. That's what I say about it.
Yes.
And I think that's true. In fact, I tell folks all the time, this show stands for what I call the mission and the message. The mission being that we're going to do what I call the 4 E's. Every day we're going to educate, enlighten, empower, and entertain people on what it means to be a conservative, a Christian in today's crazy world.
Yes.
That's the mission, but the mission is driven by the message. And the message is that every single day I want folks to hear that this show stands for Jesus is Lord, America's great, Alabama's beautiful, life is worth living. And folks need to hear that more, in my opinion.
They do need to hear it more. And I think one of the opportunities we also took advantage of was a biblical worldview applied to culture.
Yeah.
And really working through what does it mean to know who the truth is so that you can know what the truth is, but then think through those issues and really get our listeners to engage not only with that idea, but then be motivated to go get involved in their communities. And that was the part that was most humbling to both of us, is we would have people stop us and ask, how do we get involved? Where should we plug in?
Yeah.
We saw that Allison did this or that with local. We read this column. What does that mean? That was you almost you're dumbstruck, because they are paying attention. And you're right. This is a huge responsibility that the Lord will give you a microphone.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And you can talk to people. And like you said, just turn it on and you get to talk and have a conversation. But to apply a biblical worldview to culture, faith, family, politics is incredible. And then the people that you get to meet as a result of your interviews or out in everyday life is incredible.
Yeah, we've had some amazing guests on this show over the years. I mean, Ted Nugent. We've had, by the way, Uncle Ted was a hoot.
Was he a hoot?
I thought sure that red button over there was going to be fully engaged, and he did not. He cussed like a sailor during the breaks, but he got on there. He knew exactly what he could and could not do.
Kept it together. Good.
But all the politicos and everything else. But yeah, it's been a hoot. It's also a lot of fun. I mean,
it is.
And we do crack up in here a lot. We have some funny stuff. We've got, right now our favorite thing is have y'all seen Pastor Jamel Brown?
No.
Okay.
What?
So
please.
You got a minute? So we got 1 minute till we go. Okay, we have time to play it right now. We'll play it later. Pastor Jamel Brown is the Democrat running for governor right now. And he is Pastor Jamel Brown from Montgomery. And the other day he started giving out free condoms. As part of his...
yes. Okay. Yes. We just had this conversation at dinner last night. But
wait, you talk about handing out condoms at your dinner table?
Yes. But the funniest thing is, apparently he said we're handing out new condoms. We're like,
oh no!
What is the other alternative?
That's a whole different level.
No, sorry. I mean, that's what I was like. I don't know what's happening in Montgomery, but if you have to clarify they're new, we got problems. My goodness.
I'm going to have to offer a hard pass on your candidacy, sir.
Yes.
That's so funny.
He's going to legalize weed. He doesn't think cocaine never hurt nobody.
Yeah, obviously. Never hurt anybody.
Never hurt anybody.
Wait, he said that?
Oh, yeah. We got the audio. We'll play it for you.
Oh, please.
I cannot wait.
In fact, how did we miss this?
We need to have him on your show.
I don't know if we can handle it.
Be worse than Ted Nugent.
I may have to have that red dump button over there might really get used. All right, listen, we're taking a break. Coming right back after this break, we got Katherine Robertson, who is the Deputy Attorney General for the state of Alabama, former staffer with Alabama Policy Institute, now running for Attorney General. She'll be on with us. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We will be right back. And how did you... I've never heard, what is like, I know what selection is like to go to Ranger School. I know what selection is like to go to the Q course for Special Forces. But there's a selection process to go to the 160th. Am I right?
No, yeah. So very similar, actually.
All right. So tell me about that.
So when I first found out about the unit, I was in Korea. And at the time, it was still what we call a black organization, meaning nobody publicly acknowledged that it existed because it had just been formed in the aftermath of the attempted rescue of the Iranian hostages.
Right.
That's why the unit was created, because the analysis indicated that, look, you can't just throw together a bunch of assets and go try to do a complicated mission like this. It's not going to work. And so they created the unit, and there was going to be a second attempt, but most people don't know that. But the unit started training long-range missions in the desert, all the things that were required to go prosecute that target. And we're pretty much getting to the point where they were ready to go, and then the hostages got released. But the smartest decision maybe ever made by our government was, okay, well, the hostages are released, but we still need this capability. So let's keep the organization intact, fund it, obviously because everything runs on funding, unfortunately. And today, I mean, it's just an amazing organization. It's gotten more amazing over the years. So when I found out about it, it was, like I said, it was still black. And it's like people whispered about it in bars, and it's like, wow, I read Tom Clancy books. That sounds really cool, And I was getting assigned to Fort Campbell, which is where the headquarters for the 160th is. So I'm thinking, all right, I go to Fort Campbell. I walk across the street, knock on the door, say, hey, I'm interested. What do I need to do? And I made the mistake of signing into the 101st Airborne Division before I went and talked to the 160th. And by doing that, committed me to 2 years in the 101st. But in the end, best thing that could have happened to me.
Got a lot of stick time doing
I
that.
did get a lot of stick time. And in Korea, I'd flown medevac. And medevac is, I mean, there's great experience. I mean, you got to make a lot of decisions on the fly, quick response, bad weather, you know, and you're flying by yourself. I mean, I was 22 years old, you know, I'm flying real world medevac missions, you know, as the pilot in command.
No kidding. Yeah.
I mean, you mature fast or you die.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's basically how it works.
And others die with you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was great experience. But what I didn't have is multi-ship, meaning like formation flying, not a lot of, I mean, I had a decent amount of night vision goggle time, but not a ton. And you really need a lot of night vision goggle time to do well at the 160th. So getting that extra 2 years done at 101st really helped me out. I went to the instructor pilot school while I was in the 101st. So now I'm an IP. I got much more time. I got a lot more formation flying experience.
Yeah.
And then the process begins. So the assessment, again, it's a volunteer organization. So everybody that goes there on the pilot side is a volunteer. And then you have to go through an assessment, a lot like some of these other special units that you're familiar with. I mean, it's a psych eval, it's a swim test, physical fitness test, flight eval, board, all that stuff. And it happens in about a 3 or 4 day period. You know, the board's always the most dramatic because you show up with your dress uniform on, you go in there and a bunch of people look like they want to hit you. And they ask you very difficult questions and try to put you in uncomfortable situations. And, you know, there is no right answer. They just want to see how you answer the question, you know, what your makeup is. And that just begins the process. So then you enter green platoon. If they decide to take you, green platoon has changed quite a bit, but, you know, by the time you start to end, it's about 10 months. Where you're going through, again, land navigation, life-saving, physical fitness, just, you know, all the things that, you know, soldiering in general require at a high level. And then you start basic nav, where you're navigating in the cockpit with a map and a compass. Because even today, I think the priority is, hey, look, you need to know how to navigate, even though you got multiple systems in the aircraft that'll get you there.
Right.
When I was first in, GPS wasn't even in the aircraft yet.
Not at all.
The global positioning system, I'm assuming everybody knows what that is. But so we really did rely on a paper map and a compass. But you have to, you know, hit targets in the middle of nowhere at night with you know, very limited resources, and, you know, be able to do it every time plus or minus 30 seconds. And it's not as easy as it sounds. I mean, you know, depending on where you're trying to go, that can be a pretty difficult task.
I can tell you it's hard doing it on the ground.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys have a different terrain markers from up there, but you're also flying by it a lot faster, so you're
Correct.
having to keep
You
track
can
of
miss
the
it
terrain.
pretty
Yeah,
quickly. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it starts with the planning process. You got to pick the right checkpoints, you know, in order to help you find your way. And then you learn the aircraft systems, because the aircraft have different systems than the conventional force does. So you got to learn how all that works. Then you got to learn the special tactics, like things like fast rope maneuvers and aerial refueling now.
I was going to ask about that.
All of that stuff is all unique to the unit. So you have to learn all that and demonstrate proficiency.
Was
Ship
Black Hawk
landing.
your airframe at the time too, right away?
Well, it was for me. It's different now because it's a pretty expensive aircraft to fly to put all those hours on it. So now they actually start out in Little Birds, which are the Hughes 500s, basically, for all that basic nav stuff, and then they move to the advanced aircraft.
Okay.
So again, all that takes about 10 months. And then again, kind of like Jared said, then you arrive at the unit and you're still nobody, because you're the FNG, basically, if anybody knows what that acronym stands for.
It's the one we won't say, but
I
yeah.
mean, there are people that won't even talk to you. I mean, you have not proven yourself. You just because you got through green platoon means nothing, right? You have to then make your way through the progression, basic mission qualified, full mission qualified, and then the ultimate level is flight lead.
And I'm assuming green platoon actually weeds people out too.
Oh, yeah.
So
Big
you have
time.
some that are there and they're not there the next day.
Oh, you lose people in assessment, you lose people in all phases of green platoon, and then you lose some people once they get to the unit, because either the deployment schedule is too much for them, or they just aren't performing the way you thought they were going to perform, even though they got through all that. When the rubber actually meets the road, sometimes it doesn't work out.
Was it of any benefit to you at all that you had your Spanish language skills that were already there? I mean,
No, probably
in some special
not.
operations, they want a language skill to be attached to it, but is that necessary at all in aviation?
No, not really. No, I think in that case, it probably didn't help me a whole lot. I mean, the more you know about the more things, it's obviously going to help you in life, but I can't think of a specific example where that helped me out.
So you guys, you said you had some flying with nods and night vision ahead of your time going to Green Platoon and getting into the 160th, but you guys fly with it a lot when you're in the 160th, right? Is that conservative and just plain right? Well, welcome to hour number 2 on a Friday. I am still in studio with Madness. The Madness sisters are here with me. Allison Sinclair, Amy Beth Shaver are here. And we're bringing on somebody else who's been on the show multiple times. Katherine Robertson is currently the chief counsel for the Attorney General's office here in the state of Alabama. And she is now one of the lead candidates to be the next Attorney General for the state of Alabama. I knew Katherine back when she was actually working at the Alabama Policy Institute, where I was on staff for a period of time after leaving the legislature. She's a longtime conservative. I guess we could say she's an OG Rightside ruffian, but she's on the phone right now.
She fits
I think
perfectly.
She does. She's her. By the way, her Twitter page says she's known to be spunky, I think is what it says.
I enjoy that.
Yep.
And she's on the phone. Katherine Robertson, how you doing?
Hey, ladies.
Hey.
I noticed I said hey
sorry.
ladies to y'all first.
Sorry. And you weren't included in the ladies
I
part.
wasn't,
She wasn't
no.
trying. Okay.
Katherine, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are y'all doing this afternoon?
We're good. We're wide open. Hey, listen, I want to talk first of all about the campaign. 67 counties is a lot. I was talking to your current boss yesterday on the show, Steve Marshall, and 67 counties. How are you doing? How's the race going?
Hey, doing well. I think I've hit 51 counties, and I just kicked off on June 10th. So I'm out there grinding it out, Phil.
You know what's funny is when you campaign like this, you find places you didn't know existed, right?
Well, I'm kind of from a small town, so I'm probably more familiar with some of those places than some folks.
Well, let me ask you this. I know that the campaign is going. It's already in overdrive. There's a long time between now and May, and yet it's going to get here real quick. I'm seeing good things in the press, but you still got your gig as a chief counsel for the AG's office. And you guys have had some major things going on lately. Lay one or two of those out for us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, been a lot going on lately. This week, we were pretty excited to watch my colleague, Eddie LaCour, appear before the Senate Judiciary Committee. He is on his way to becoming our next federal district judge, and so we're super proud of Eddie. But the work continues. We picked up a big win in the 11th Circuit this week about the Alligator Alcatraz case. Y'all might know that's one of these federal district judges run them up, but tried to shut down that construction project. And we appealed to 11th Circuit and won with a really strong coalition. So never a dull moment in the AG's office.
No, never at all. And I was talking to Attorney General Marshall. You guys have got a case against TikTok right now. Am I right?
Yeah, we do. That's a big one. It's, that was going to take some time, but golly, if you may know, but it's some of our investigators have set up accounts and looked into what youth in Alabama are being fed by that app, despite numerous warnings that that say that there's content that's blocked and that kind of thing. But it turns out it's fed right up to young people and causing all kinds of societal problems. And so that's something that we're taken pretty seriously. We filed a lawsuit against them a couple of months ago, and really it's not about money. We want them to put their money where their mouth is and change the rules so that minors aren't hit with that kind of stuff when they're on an app that they believe has safety settings on it.
Well, let me ask you too. I think I've had this conversation with you before. I certainly know where you were with API and all those things in the past. But the Attorney General and I have had a conversation, and you're vying to be the next Attorney General, about the importance of that sort of that 10th Amendment right of the states to take unilateral action on behalf of their citizens. The AG's office is not just there to prosecute crime. It's not just there to defend something. It's there to go after stuff too. Am I right?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest powers, the broadest powers that we have is consumer protection, which means if Alabamians are using a product and it's mislabeled or there's some sort of fraudulent claim, we can go after, that as a state. And of course, it's something that we want to be really careful about. It's a tool that can be abused, honestly, to create a climate that's not business friendly. But when there's a truly bad actor, in this case, we're alleging TikTok is that actor that's saying to parents, hey, we have these age restrictions and we restrict content and it's safe. Parents believe that. And then when it turns out to not be true, then, we're going to make a move. And I think you've seen several other states realize that they've got the same problem going on, and TikTok's going to have their hands full.
Oh, that's outstanding. You guys have anything you want to jump in on?
Katherine, what's the remedy for that? Like, how do you handle that? Or what are you asking them to do?
Yeah, we're asking for an array of options to make sure that they do what they say they'll do. These companies absolutely have the ability to put an algorithm in place that makes content blocked for certain ages or whatever. They have ways that they can make sure that a child that signs up for their app is actually the age that they are. These are, some of the most progressive, fast, progressive thinking. They know how to do stuff like this.
Right.
They just don't want to.
Right.
And so all we're asking them to do is to actually deliver on the promises that they're making to parents and people who use their app. And they know what to do. It's just whether or not they're willing to. They're also going to probably owe us some money.
There you go. And by the way, it's not just Alabama. There's a coalition of states that joined in on this, right?
There is a coalition, but we're actually doing our own case. We did that in opioids, and it served us well. It keeps us from, having to be in a room with, honestly, states that we don't always agree with on policy issues. And some of those multi-states can get really complicated. So we've sort of had success just going it alone and handle it in our own state.
You got anything, Amy Beth?
Well, actually, it's the next topic.
The next
perhaps
topic
we'll cover
on that whole thing about the campaign.
Yes.
Yeah, we got time. We got about 4 minutes to the break. Go ahead and jump on it.
Okay. Katherine, could you explain to people the kerfuffle over the Culver House donation, and just from your perspective, and just to clear that up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Hugh Culver House is a really wealthy guy. He's an attorney and a philanthropist, although his political persuasions have evolved over the years. So this guy used to be a Hillary Clinton donor, a Joe Biden donor, or even a Planned Parenthood donor. But over time, his views have evolved. He actually gave big to Trump. He supported Speaker Mike Johnson and a lot of other conservatives, and even publicly had changed his tune on abortion, saying that, he respected and supported the Dobbs decision. So this is a guy I've met along the way on the campaign trail. He cares a lot about Alabama and always is, giving money to different philanthropies and organizations in Alabama. So anyway, he and I got into a long conversation, and he expressed interest in my campaign, and we just talked a lot about kind of what I stand for and the causes that I support. And so just a really cool thing happened. He wanted to make some donations to some philanthropies that I support and stand for. And so he ended up making $100,000 donation to Save a Life in Selma, which is where I'm from, and is badly in need of funding. And he donated to some other groups as well that I have a special interest in, the Baby Steps program at Auburn, Alabama. So I guess he just wanted to, he had expressed his change in opinion, but he wanted to, again, put his money where his mouth is. And it was really special and just a good ending to something that, kind of was nasty.
Well, your opposition has already tried to make hay out of it, and is trying to say that you're taking from Obama donors, and and somehow or another this is an evil campaign donation that you never should have taken. So you're telling us right now that the same guy who wrote that check, who did have some donations in the past that we would question, he's
Sure.
like all in for the cause now, is what you're saying.
Well, I'm not going to say he's all in for the cause. I don't know. I just know that he's changed his tune, and he was willing to show that on his bank account by donating to these groups. Because I think if you're a big Trump donor, then, I think that would show an evolution in views from somebody that once supported Hillary Clinton. So I really appreciate it. I've had a lot of conversations with him, and I, the lesson for me is just, you never write anybody off. You never know what good may come out of just talking through something in a respectful way. And I just really appreciate the gesture.
Yeah.
Katherine, one of the things that I've been reading is that you are anti-Trump, which I think is
What?
yeah. Well, it's funny because the first time I ever met Katherine, she came and spoke at one of local's Title IX town hall.
Yeah.
And she showed up in a Trump
yeah.
t-shirt. And I'm like, dang, girl, I don't even wear a Trump t-shirt because I don't want to get in like an East Tennessee fight on the streets. But you know, what's your response to that?
Well, I mean, anybody who knows me knows that that is absurd. I think, you know, elections get silly, politics gets nasty. You know, I have no explanation for how that could ever stick with anybody who knows me. But yeah, I think the criticism is over the, you know, very large donation I received in my first month from First Principles Action, which is a group that, you know, run by a guy that used to run the Republican AGs Association. And I mean, man, they have supported conservative rock star candidates as far as I'm concerned. And the fact that they would even care about me or my race, honestly, has been a gift. I mean, it's, you know, not easy to raise money. It's not easy to raise conservative money. And I'm delighted that they chose to take interest in me.
Hey, let me say too, I was on Auburn Opelika this morning at WANI, was one of our affiliates. And I made the point that I understand that in campaigns, you know, there's like, you know, mudslinging is sometimes part of it. God knows I've been through my own, but at the same time, there's a lot of time between now and May. And I feel like your opposition, if they really wanted to make hay out of this, they did it way too soon, because you got plenty of time to do what you just did, which is correct the narrative.
Yeah, look, I don't know what to attribute the timing to or the accusation, but I'll just say this. I've been doing this job for a long time. Before I did this job, I was at API. Before that, I worked for Jeff Sessions. I'm running on my record. Everybody else can run on what they want to run on, but you know, he's not going to find anything in my record that's anti-Trump. I can guarantee you that.
Well, Katherine Robertson, you're running a great race. Listen, we'll have you back on again sometime soon, but we appreciate you making time today.
Hey, thanks, guys. This was fun. Y'all have a good weekend.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. That's Katherine Robertson, Chief Counsel for the Attorney General's office. She's been there for years, longtime conservative, and now running to be the next Attorney General for the state of Alabama. By the way, the amount of contributions coming into her campaign is a clear indication that she's hitting some marks, if you know what I'm saying. That being said, we're going to take a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back. One of the things that differentiates the 160's capabilities, aside from the airframe having some other capabilities too, but is flying with nods a big part of what y'all do?
Yeah, certainly at the time. I would say now there's maybe the focus is broader. I mean, across the entire military.
Yeah.
But, you know, the unit was pioneers in night vision goggle flight. I mean, our guys were the ones that came up with the idea. You know, when I went through flight school, we actually flew with what are called full face goggles, meaning they have a frame around them where you cannot see anything other than what you see through the tubes. And we did flights during the daytime with filters on the ends of the tubes where the instructor can see, but you can't, because obviously that's the safest way to learn how to fly night vision goggles. But it's really difficult for the person actually flying under those conditions. I think I was actually the last class to ever fly full face goggles and do day filters. I'm not sure, but we made a transition right around that time. But it was guys at the unit who said, "This is stupid. Cut the frame off," right? Because they're originally made for ground use, not air use.
Yeah.
So they cut the frame off and they made them flip up, and you know, there's been evolution after evolution.
They got the big cushion pad around.
Yeah,
and they're like,
the full
like
face
big.
ones. Yeah. They didn't last very long, but that's where it started. You know, until somebody said, "No, we need to change this," and then they came up with ideas like finger lights and lip lights and infrared lasers and infrared tracers and all these things that you can see with night vision goggles that you can't see with the unaided eye. All were, you know, basically came from that early
So how much of that
stage.
training is done by simulators now? Do they do that?
A lot,
simulation?
a lot.
Yeah.
Simulators are really good. It was actually part of what I did after,
At
you know,
Pinnacle?
I transitioned out, was working that field. And it's a tremendous cost saver in safety. You know, I mean, you can do things in a simulator that are sometimes impossible to do in the aircraft, but certainly safer to do in a simulator, and you can do it cost effectively. Because a lot of what's going on in the aircraft today that are advanced is mission management. It's not so much moving the sticks around, it's pushing buttons and understanding how to use the integrated avionics. And you don't need to learn how to do that in a, you know, aircraft that costs whatever, you know, $10,000 an hour to fly. Now, I'm not saying you don't need stick time. Okay, that's the trap that some bean counters tend to fall into. That
There's always that seat of the pants feel that
yes,
changes things.
and actually the Army has come to realize that the aircraft they've been using for primary flight training at Fort Rucker now probably isn't the best because you're not doing enough actual stick flying. There's a lot of automated systems on board that help the aircraft or help you as a pilot, that you're losing that real ability to fly manually.
Yeah.
And they just did a pilot program where they're going to probably change how flight school is done, because there's been a realization that we got people that don't know how to fly a helicopter. I mean, they can mission manage all day long, but if they have to actually fly a bird, they're not as good as we used to be, unfortunately.
So let me ask you this: what now? The 160th, y'all are balls out a lot. So when you're flying, some of the stuff you're doing are not the things you would do or even be allowed to do in a conventional unit. But then you're also, like you said, you were back in the days when things were being pioneered. And I swear, I think it was you told me one time about strapping a Gatling gun or something to the front of one of the birds just to try it out to see if it would work. And it didn't work very well.
Well,
am I right in remembering that?
Yeah, I was part of the group that created the Arm Blackhawk.
Okay.
And it's still the only place that it's used is at the 160th.
All right.
And yeah, we were running with scissors. I mean, we put a 50 cal, you know, and these things are being mounted just on what was originally intended to be a door gunner pintle mount. So it's not really structurally designed to hold, a fixed forward weapon, but we modified it to where it could. And I mean, we
had a little
had
duct tape, a little zip tie.
Oh, plenty of duct tape. Yeah, even coat hangers. I mean, you name it, whatever it took. But it was an amazing time to be there because you could go from sitting in the team room saying, "Man, it would be cool if we could do this," to convincing the leadership that, you know, there's some risk here, but we think we can mitigate it. Let's go try it. To then, yeah, that worked. Writing a requirement and actually getting it turned into something that is fielded, and then go shoot it in combat. I mean, there's probably nowhere else in the world you could say that. And I mean, I experienced that on more than one occasion.
So what was the craziest thing you can remember y'all did and thought, "Man, we're never going to do that again"? The one that you sit around at 160th reunions going, "Remember that time?"
Yeah. Well, one of the most amazing stories, and I've told it many times. I like to joke that I shot myself down 5 times, and the most dramatic.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world, one soundbite at a time. All right, I'm back in studio with 2 OG ruffians from way back, Allison Sinclair, Amy Beth Shavers. And so I understand from our earlier conversation, you guys have not been introduced to Pastor Jamel Brown's candidacy.
Sadly not.
You said you knew a little about him.
I just know one story. I've never heard his voice. I've never seen him, but I mean, I'm all for some entertainment here in the state of Alabama.
So you can't make this stuff up. What you're about to hear is actually Pastor Jamel Brown on a podcast. You got that podcast, right, JP?
I do.
You do.
Brace yourselves.
Would you please bring in Pastor Jamel Brown? All right. The ice cream man. Ice cream man. Ice cream man. Ice cream man. Okay, so Pastor Jamel Brown was on a podcast and he was giving his thoughts and views on the legalization of controlled substances.
Okay.
Play it.
Legalizing it.
Medical or just period?
I'm legalizing weed, period, across the board. Weed never hurt nobody. Let's go deep on that too, hustle. How can the government classifies a God-grown plant from Mother Earth as a substance abuse for drugs? How? Why? You get what I'm saying?
Cocaine come from a plant too, though.
Yeah. Cocaine never hurt nobody, though. Did cocaine never hurt anybody? They get on that molly, they get freaky, crazy, crashed out. Walk with me.
Okay,
And-
sure.
And now he is running for governor on the Democrat ticket. I was making the point yesterday. So we had A.G. Marshall on yesterday, but in that same bench we have for the U.S. Senate, we've got Jared Hudson, we've got Barry Moore, and we've got Steve Marshall. And I said, what a deep bench, man. I mean,
I
like
know.
you can look at any one of those three guys and be proud of who they are and what
Yes.
they've done. And they've all done different kinds of things. You can look at who's running for attorney general with Katherine Robertson right now. You can look at who's running for governor, which is going to be the coronation is going to be Tommy Tuberville. And then the Democrats got Pastor Jamel Brown. And I'm like,
How is he polling right now?
well,
I mean, how do you poll with something like that? I'm going to
don't-
legalize it.
I mean, actually, probably pretty well. Honestly,
Where's the
maybe
problem?
there are some Republicans that are going to switch over. I don't know, but
Allison.
did y'all ever see?
Allison.
Wait,
I know what you're going to say.
What are you doing? I don't know.
Did y'all ever see
Get
the
the
movie?
red button ready.
I knew you were going to say it.
The
I
movie
knew it.
Friday.
The what?
Have you ever watched the movie Friday?
Friday? No.
I have, yeah.
No.
I have, yeah.
It's just-
Phil,
You know, Big Worm,
Don't
the
watch
ice
it.
cream man. He's also
Yes.
the drug
Oh,
dealer
I've
of the
seen
neighborhood.
Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I think of. Like I when you were playing the ice cream song, and then he's like, "We never hurt nobody." I mean, that is so something Big Worm would say. And we got
Big
a Big
Worm.
Worm running for governor.
Oh, my word.
Oh my god.
So when you look him up, I think he's actually run for Montgomery City Council twice and lost. So now he figures he'll run for governor.
Because
Why
that's
not?
what you do.
Why
I think
not?
you need to
No.
have him on. Have him on for a debate.
Well, that would be a hoot. I am pretty sure I would be accused of something afterwards. I
You
don't know
would.
what.
No,
Yeah,
we'll come
but-
back
It's
for it.
fine.
We'll come
It's
back.
fine.
We'll sit in. We got JP.
Could we not just quite simply run on Law and Order? Is that too hard?
It is.
Well, I mean, that might be his Law and Order.
I mean, we're talking about he's from Montgomery.
Yeah, Montgomery.
Yeah.
Is that right, Montgomery?
Montgomery,
Yeah,
yeah.
so we lovingly call it Montgomery. And
Montgomery.
so you're from there and now you're running for a larger office, more important office. How about just run on keeping your own city safe?
That guy's a pastor, by the way, too. Don't
Oh,
forget that.
stop
What,
it.
though? Is that like,
that
is
part.
that like an Al Sharpton pastorship or what is,
Yeah,
what is
for
that?
sure. I don't know exactly what
Do we have a
church,
bio
but,
somewhere where it tells like where he got his where he got his-
Online.
okay, his divinity
It's
degree
online.
came from the School of Hard Knocks. What did we got?
Yeah, I can't find anywhere what church he's a pastor of, but yeah, according to his Instagram bio, he's a pastor, activist, and governor candidate for 2026.
Oh wait, tell him what he wants to do with the governor's mansion.
Oh, he
Oh,
wants to have twerk Tuesdays at the governor's mansion.
Twerk,
You
twerk
cannot be
Tuesdays around the
serious.
pool.
Okay,
Twerk Tuesdays at the
I
pool
just
at the
draw the
governor's mansion.
line at that.
We're
Re-
done.
now, the
Hard pass,
mansion
sir.
does need an overhaul,
It does, but not that kind.
but I'm not thinking that's gonna fit.
Free condoms, legalize everything. Oh, by the way, he also wants to turn out the prisoners. He wants to
Yeah,
he
free
wants to
all
free the jail.
nonviolent offenders.
Yeah, they all get out
Mhm.
and
And then twerk on
and
Tuesdays.
twerk on Tuesdays.
That's
It's
a lot
great
to
plan.
do.
That's great.
That's
Okay.
That's
packed.
a heck of a platform, y'all.
That is
Good
a
grief.
schedule.
Heck of a
Has he
platform.
talked about like education or like the
I'm
VA
pretty sure
or
he's too busy twerking and has a doobie going. I don't think he's going to make it with the education. All right, the music's playing.
Oh,
Preacher
God.
got to quit preaching. All right, that's it. We'll take a break. We'll come right back. Phil Williams, Right Side Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
And none of it my fault, but the most dramatic one. So back to this pintle mount with a minigun on it. So a minigun is a 7.62 Gatling gun,
Right.
6-barrel. It'll shoot 6,000 rounds a minute at high rate. Okay, that is incredible. When people see video, like if you go online, you Google minigun night firing, keep in mind all those tracers you're seeing, that's every 14th round. Okay, or every 15th round. It's 14-to-1 tracer mix usually. So even though it's a steady stream of tracers, there's 14 more rounds in between each one of those you're not seeing. That's how many rounds are going downrange. So we got one on each side. And the way that we fixed forward mounted them is we put this, we call it a diaper pin. It was a pin that went through the pivot, which, because, if it's a door gunner, they're going to want to be able to pivot it, right?
Right.
We have to fix that. So we put a brace to hold it vertically, and then we put this pin through the shaft it's rotating on to hold it horizontally. and then it's a diaper pin because it goes around and it has a hook on the end that connects on the end. Right?
Okay. All right.
Which sounds like that should be sufficient. Well, it is until it isn't. And I'm flying with Donovan Briley, who's a really good friend of mine, lost in Somalia, actually. First aircraft shot down. We're flying. He's in the right seat. I'm in the left. Night vision goggles. We're going in a range at Fort Knox. Live fire. No dry run. We got approval to usually have to make a dry pass to make sure there's nobody out there, but we got approval to go in hot. So we roll in. I'm flying. I pull the trigger, and the tracers are crossing in front of the nose. And so I
That's
let off.
bad, by the way.
Yeah, I let off
Don't
on the
cross
trigger.
the streams.
And I said, that is the worst expletive bore sight job I have ever seen in my life. So a bore sight is when you
Right.
orient the weapons to where they're going to impact where the sight is pointing, right? And Donovan, in classic Donovan style, says, Mike, I think we got a problem. So I look over, and I mentioned the finger lights earlier. Finger light is just a little battery-operated LED that is infrared, so you can't see it unless you're wearing goggles. We have some that you can see. This one you could see. And he turns on his finger light, and he points to the windshield. His minigun, that diaper pin can't come out while we were flying to Fort Knox. And when I pulled the trigger, the barrel rotation caused the gun to go left. You would think the wind would cause it to go right, but the barrel rotation caused it to go left.
Force.
And it shot through the cockpit. It missed his knee by like 3 inches. He's got 7.62 rounds all through the cockpit. The windshield's blown out. Glass has been, because I felt something in my eyes, and it turned out it was glass shards from the rounds going through the cockpit.
Mighty Mike.
And again, luckily, it hit. He had a armor panel on the side here, and the barrels hit the front of the armor panel, I think, but it stopped them from going any further, or it would come right through the cockpit and kill us both. And anyway, we landed, and what I like to say about this story is, this is back when it seemed like we had a little bit of authority to do things that maybe you'd get crushed for today. So I'm thinking about, okay, nowhere in the manual does it say I can't have holes in the windshield to fly this bird. So we put duct tape, back to the duct tape, over the holes in the windshield, cranked it up, and flew it back to Fort Campbell.
No,
today that would probably get you
with your finger off the trigger the whole time.
we emptied the rounds out of the weapons, but that's probably the most dramatic thing that ever happened non-combat.
Yeah.
That I can come up with, and then there were 4 more of those that are less exciting. But
no, that's well, yeah, that's definitely one of those you swap over a beer and like, oh, no, let me tell the time we shot ourselves down.
Yeah,
that's
so they don't use the diaper pins anymore. By the way.
All right, so op tempo for you, you're in the 160th. Operational tempo is higher than the average unit, I would imagine, but it's a lot of come and go. What's the op tempo like in the 160th?
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Again, I was out when 9/11 occurred. I'd retired 6 months prior.
Really?
Made me feel like I was sitting on the bench and considered what I could do to get back in. But with my injuries from Somalia, I couldn't fly operationally anymore. But the reason I bring that up is just to put this in perspective.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all are talking about this show, this one. It goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And then, oh, by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web and checking us out live streaming the show every single day on X, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's podcasters catching it after the fact. So thank you very much, all of y'all. No matter where you catch the show, you're the reason why we do it. Thank you very much. Did you say I got a phone call right now? Is that Lee from Huntsville? No kidding. Lee from Huntsville, how are you doing?
I am good. I'm enjoying the show with the ladies.
Good.
I've met Allison before. Allison is a trip. She's very funny. But
Allison,
I
you're
want
a
to say
trip.
something about this candidate.
Oh, which one? The Jamel
I
Brown
want to say
candidate?
something about. She's a good friend of Emily Jones, so that's
Indeed.
Yeah, Lee, how's
Um,
your foot?
Well, that was a while ago.
I
It's
know,
healed
but
up
I
now,
haven't
but-
seen you since then. As I'm looking at your picture up on the screen, I'm like, oh my goodness, last time I saw her, she was hobbling. You're
I
all
was.
recovered?
I have healed.
Okay, good.
I have healed.
Just had to check.
So, and I think the ice cream song is really funny. Although I have sent JP, I've texted it a better, more appropriate ice cream song, so he needs to listen
A
to it.
better, more appropriate ice
oh.
cream song.
We'll have to check it out.
All right, we'll check it out.
Yes, you will. It's a video, and it's hysterical. These guys are dancing to the ice cream truck because it's like a more.
I know exactly
Wait a
which
second.
one she's talking
I
about.
think-
Yes, yes, I do.
All right, so what you want to talk
And I
about
think
Jamel
that
Brown
was-
then?
Okay. So, as funny as all this is, I'd like to address one thing.
Okay.
Because this has affected me directly.
Okay.
Weed does hurt people.
Thank you very much.
I have a close family member who already struggled with mental illness in
Yep.
his teens. When you combine this with long-term weed, you have psychotic breaks.
Yep.
You have someone who can't keep a job. You have someone who can't maintain family ties or friendships because of seriously erratic behavior. And this is because of the combination of weed and mental illness. Don't let anybody ever tell you that weed doesn't hurt. It does.
It does. And, you know, a couple things there. One is the THC levels in what I would call modern weed is a whole lot different than what it used to be back in the 60s and the 50s and all that. But the other piece of this is, you know, Lee, part of my schizophrenic resume is that I spent several years post-college working in an adolescent treatment center with kids, many of whom had like behavioral disorders. They were abuse victims. A lot of them had addictions. I never met a kid who took their first toke, because that was always the gateway, it seemed like. I never met a kid who took their first toke with the intent of becoming an addict, but they did. And a lot of it happened because that slippery slope of the controlled substance they got their hands on, and next thing you know, they want the next level, then the next level. And yeah, weed is harmful, and weed is also a precursor. Don't tell me it's not.
Can I quote someone?
Yeah. You
As
run
the
this show.
esteemed
Come on,
Prince
girl.
Sang, as the esteemed Prince once said, September, my cousin tried reefer for the very first time. Now he's doing horse. It's June. That is a very true progression.
Wow. Absolutely. Well, we love you, Lee from Huntsville.
Love you guys.
See ya.
Bye, Lee.
Yeah, you know what's amazing to me too, and I was about to get into my first actual dipper of the day, which we really haven't even dived into my content yet, but I called it Blue City Red State. There was a study done, and I want to say, who is it? Axios has got a copy of it here. I'll hold it in my calloused former paratrooper hands. But I say that all the time. I didn't just say that for y'all. I say that all the time on the show, by the way.
Which is very cool.
Figured.
Okay. But there was a study done not so long ago talking about how the preponderance of the 20 most dangerous crime-ridden cities in the nation are all run by Democrats, even those that are in red states. And I saw the other day that Gavin Newsom was talking about, he put out this post, and Katherine Robertson, by the way, is the one who retorted to it quickly. He said, Alabama's got a higher crime rate than California, which I don't know what he was smoking, but the reality is no. But we do have pockets, and oh, by the way, they're run by Democrats. And so to tie into what Lee just said, Randall Woodfin, who just got an overwhelming re-election, and that's democracy. I get it. 72% landslide victory, even with a crowded field, for mayor of Birmingham, has been presiding over decline now for at least 8 years, is all about legalizing weed. He even, maybe y'all are tracking this, he even issued a pardon to anyone who's had a marijuana conviction in the city of Birmingham back to 1992. I'd look at that and think, my God. But your thoughts?
Have you read, and this is for the people who think we're absolutely crazy. I talked to a mom yesterday whose child had been involved with weed, who went through a psychotic breakdown essentially, and actually asked the mom, could we ever do a podcast together on this subject, because she said she had so much to say, and so did the child who had been addicted and is now not. But Alex Berenson wrote a book, Tell Your Children, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's short, it's an easy read, but it really hammers home this idea that THC is very different than the 1972 THC levels in weed. And so for the people who are absolutely convinced that we're off our rockers and that what Lee just called to say was insane, that they don't believe your experience is insane, read the book. Find out for yourself.
Yep.
I don't know anybody who hasn't passed a car on the interstate. Sometimes it feels like it's everywhere right now, that you go, really, this is how you're choosing to live your life, and you're driving, and you're willing to put all of us at risk? Really? I think we have a massive problem on our hands. It takes away people's desire to live. It lowers men's ability to reproduce and have children. And I know from my husband's perspective that it makes people incredibly defensive.
Your husband being a doctor.
He is a gastroenterologist, and people come in that are addicted, that absolutely refuse to give up their weed, and tell him that he's crazy. And the closest he's ever gotten to fights with patients are those that are addicted to weed, and they're ready to punch him in the face when he says, have you considered that maybe what you're smoking is affecting your gut?
Yeah. Wow. No kidding. I mean, and I was out in Colorado Springs. Gosh, I bet it's been 10 years. But, they're a recreational use state now, which I look at it too, thinking, how do you have you have the Air Force Academy, and you have Fort Carson, Colorado, and you have all these major installations with military who, by the way, will lose their careers if they test positive. And yet there's a recreational use state. You could not go anywhere in Colorado. We have food trucks here. They had pot trucks. They would pull up and, drop the ramp, and you could buy it right off the back of the truck, with, big signs on the bottom line is, it absolutely, you could smell it everywhere.
It's awful.
It was a mess.
Terrible.
And I love Colorado. I know you love Colorado. It blows my mind that there are portions of the United States that are like, oh, it's a controlled substance under the federal guidelines. We don't care. And they just pass a law.
Talking about, what did you name this dipper? Blue dot?
Blue City, Red State.
I don't understand, unless you are fully committed to some progressive agenda, something evil, something sinister, how you can actually say that this doesn't harm a city or harm your people or harm a population. Because you look at every single city based on homelessness, the drug use, the crime. I mean, and what I don't get is the people of that city continue to elect the same people. And you look at Chicago, which had 54 shootings this past weekend or something crazy.
Yeah.
And remember, they all vote Lori Lightfoot out, and we're like, yes.
Yeah, the voodoo priestess. Yeah.
And now, oh gosh, she's scary. Scary.
Yeah.
And then they put in somebody that's actually worse than her. And
Which I didn't think could happen.
So I don't get it, unless everybody is just brainwashed, or they're wanting to break down America and just destroy what we have.
All
and
right,
that's slowly what's happening.
Let's bring it home on that then. Blue City, Red State, Birmingham, Alabama. We are absolutely a red state. Good luck getting a statewide election for a Democrat anywhere for quite a while, I think. In 2010, I was proud to be a part of the group that flipped our state house finally after 136 straight years to make it red. That being said, we still have a blue city. We have a couple of them, but we have this major blue city of Birmingham. And I look at it, and this study from this thing from Axios that I've got, it literally points out in this national article that the second highest homicide rate in the nation is Birmingham, Alabama. And this article came out 2 weeks ago.
Just per capita.
Yeah, there it is. Per capita, a homicide rate of 59 per 100,000, which is 11 times the national average.
Unbelievable.
And yet Woodfin has been presiding over that. That's the thing. They keep reelecting these chuckleheads and putting them in office. Woodfin here's the other article from AL.com. Yes, I went to Axios and AL.com, but nonetheless.
Wow. Did you need a cup of coffee?
I need a shower is what I need. AL.com, it's like they're proud of it. $1.6 million in donations propelled Woodfin to dominate the election and win. Well, a lot of them are out of the state, which I'm curious about. He got over $100,000 in out-of-state donors. But you look at that and go, wow, y'all. He has presided over the decline of the city. The crime rate's through the roof. The population has declined under his tenure to the point they went from being the biggest city in the state to now they're third, almost fourth. When are they going to wake up?
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine that you vote yes for that? You've given your assent to that decline and you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Our son's car was stolen twice from downtown Birmingham within 24 days apart.
No kidding.
The first car I found fully loaded, like 3 Glock magazines underneath his seat. If he had been 15 minutes earlier, he would have been shot.
No kidding.
So we were affected by that. But what about the people who can't go and get insurance and replace a car and then have to figure out how you're going to do it after the second time happens?
Yeah.
There are hundreds of thousands of people that are affected by his negligence, but then by the assent to wickedness. I don't know how you change it, but it is, I don't know. On election night, I watched and I thought, I am distressed. Surely the people of Birmingham are distressed, but they don't know a way out, because how is somebody other than a Democrat ever going to get elected in Birmingham? Are there any conservative Democrats out there?
There are a few, and they are way outnumbered right now. But even still, it's an interesting piece there too. We're about to go to a break, but yesterday I did a segment called "The Enemy of My Political Enemy." And I talked about the fact that every once in a while you watch it and you go, okay, ain't no way a Republican's ever getting elected there. Like Mamdani is running right now for New York. But can we find a better Democrat at least? If we can't stop the Democrats from being pretty much the solo party in Birmingham, can we at least go out and recruit a better Democrat to run?
Right.
I mean, what do we have to do here?
So what do you think? Gwendolyn?
Well, no.
She's fun.
Gwendolyn Gavan would have been, I mean, at the very least, I will say this. She would have been one soundbite after another. She would have been on national news, which is what she wanted.
Yeah.
And how many pairs of glasses does she own, by the way?
A lot.
They're fabulous.
Yes.
I don't
Oh,
know.
And
I mean,
love her
they are
outfits,
like,
okay.
if you're bored, go to the State House and watch her on the floor one day.
Oh,
It is
sister.
like Jerry Springer. I mean, it is full entertainment. So you're right. It would have been a little, although Randall's pretty funny. I have to give him that. He's all wrong.
I've met him. He's a nice guy. He comes across as like being almost innocent looking because he got that kind of like boyish face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
You know, and then you look at him and you go, "You're an awful politician."
Yeah. Is he little?
No, he's like 6 foot.
I would have had him as
All right, we gotta take a break. We're taking a break right now. Sitting in studio with Allison Sinclair, Amy Beth Shavers, and just little old me, Phil Williams. Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Rotation for our guys during the War on Terror was 90 days on, 90 days off. So you're in theater 90 days, either Iraq or Afghanistan. You're back for 90, then back in. There are guys who did 30 rotations, 30 in combat. And when I say combat, I mean combat.
Yeah.
You know, they're hitting multiple targets every night. And there's just no op tempo that's more demanding than that I know of.
That's every one of the airframes.
Yes.
Chinooks, Blackhawks.
Yeah,
Warbirds,
the Chinooks were the stars of Afghanistan, actually, because of the elevation, which was a real struggle for the Little Birds and even the Blackhawks. But Iraq was pretty much more a Blackhawk Little Bird show, with certainly a lot of Chinook missions as well. But yeah, all the platforms.
Yeah, I was in my tour in Afghanistan was the beginning of the war, riding horses and stuff. But we were in the northern parts, north of the Hindu Kush. And so both Bagram and Kandahar down south couldn't get to us by rotary wing because getting over the top of the Hindu Kush was too much for most of the airframes they flew.
Yep.
And the only couple of times something happened where somebody came in from the south, I think they were flying Chinooks.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's a beast. I mean, it really is. You know, there's some.
It's a freaking school bus with rotors on top.
Yeah, we call it a dump truck, but I love it. Yeah, it's a great aircraft.
But I've seen images of, I mean, some of those guys that fly in the Chinooks. It's amazing. They can balance on a dime. But they literally, one guy was with the ramp down in the back was hovering in the air, exiting troops onto a mud hut on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, there's a famous picture from Afghanistan. That's probably it.
Yeah.
The front wheels are off in space, with hundreds of feet below. Yeah.
So you had some major deployments. Operation Prime Chance, which a lot of folks don't realize is defending tankers that were flagged American and making sure they're safe.
Our friends, the Iranians, who
they're in the news again.
They've I don't even know what to say about them. It's just they've been a constant problem for 50 years, and it's gonna be interesting to see how this plays out, because the Israelis are just to the point where they had to do something, and they did.
Yeah, and I think most of the world is glad they did. At the same time, holding their breath that they did.
Right.
But Operation Just Cause. So you're back in Panama again, and you went in with the 160th on that too, right?
Right. We did. We were there for 8 hours. So when the F-117 dropped the first bomb ever at Rio Hato, I was down there underneath watching it. It was pretty amazing.
Flying over places you've been to in the past, right?
Yeah. Some of the subsequent missions, there's where I used to live, and we're putting SEAL Team 6 in on targets around the city, trying to find, because Noriega was still on the run at the time. That our mission was to capture him. That was it.
Yeah.
And we called it the hunt for Elvis, because there was always an Elvis sighting somewhere, and usually it was bogus, but if it met the intel criteria, we'd go. And so we were flying all over the place.
And then Desert Storm also, also with 160th. Obviously, all your deployments there with 160th. But what was the mission in Desert Storm? Was it scud hunting or what?
It was, yeah. So the scuds, for those who don't recall, the concern was Saddam was launching scuds into Israel,
right,
which potentially would draw Israel into the fight, which would break up our coalition, because our coalition had Arab countries along with Western countries as part of a unified force. But if the Israelis got involved, the concern was that would fall apart. So it was a huge issue to stop Saddam Hussein from firing scuds into Israel. So we were putting Delta Force on the ground in Western Iraq to try to find these launchers. And then we actually found some ourselves, and I was fortunate enough to put the first rounds on one.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
With an armed Black Hawk?
With an armed Black Hawk.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Take it out?
So in the end, they think it was a decoy, but there's a photo of it in this. I don't know if you've ever seen these books. Like there's an Army one, a Navy one, Air Force. There's a SOCOM book. They're big format, like coffee table books. Yeah. In that book for SOCOM, there's a picture of my FLIR. If you look at that picture, I don't care who you are, you're not going to think that's a decoy. I mean, so FLIR is forward-looking infrared. For those who don't know what that acronym is, it's heat sensitive, basically. You can see heat on the wheels. I mean, it looks real. I mean, this thing absolutely looks real. And then you can see the minigun rounds sort of hitting on the way up into but it didn't blow up. And we had a Scud expert back at the operations center when we got back, and he said, "You're really lucky it didn't blow up, because if it blows up, it's like the space shuttle going off, because there's so much propellant in there."
Oh, wow.
And we were
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just bulletproof influence, man. Bulletproof influence. That's where we are. By the way, if you have not seen it, go to our website, rightsidemedia.org. On our merchandise shop, you can buy our Bulletproof Influence limited edition highball glasses. They really are a thing. I don't know if you've seen those, ladies.
That's
one. Yes,
it's tremendous.
We have them back there in the merch room, but yeah, it's got a .308 round embedded in the glass, and it has the Rightside Media logo engraved. They were custom made for us by a company called Binshot.
Okay,
And,
that is super cool.
And it says Bulletproof Influence at the bottom of it.
Chris, don't listen, but I think maybe I'll get you some in the
can't-
fall. Don't listen though.
But yeah, we got
That's
a few
really
left in
cool.
stock. Bulletproof Influence, baby. That's what we're about. Hey, ladies, Blue City, Red State. Let's wrap that topic. But one of the things that's like big in the news right now is the fact that Trump said enough with Washington, D.C.'s crime problem. And he called in the National Guard. He exercised his authorities basically under what's known as the 1973 D.C. Home Rule Act, Section 740, I believe. And crime is way down. I mean, it's working. But now he's talking about Chicago. He's talking about Boston. He's talking about, all that. Chicago is next on the list, is what we hear. You
Should
mentioned
be.
Chicago a minute
Yeah.
ago.
Memphis would be good.
But then there's a lot of talk about, okay, when is enough? How far can you go? I mean, there's actually law that says he can do it in DC, but how do you feel about him going to other places? Because even Tuberville said that as governor, he'd call the National Guard into Birmingham if you had to. What are your thoughts?
No, that's one of those things that it's like, I mean, look, Chicago, if you want to run your state into the ground, isn't it your right to run your state into the ground? I mean, the libertarian in me kind of fights that. And then you go, you cannot have a functioning society without rules and law and order. I mean, we are borderline anarchy in a lot of these places. So I think it's a fine line, but at some point you just got to be the commander in chief and you have to do what you have to do. But I do think you try and give them the chance to pull it together, but you watch these blue cities and they're just not interested in doing anything different.
It's cashless bail, defund the police. You know, it's all it's the DAs funded by Soros that are like, you know, we won't prosecute anything. So how would you feel about National Guard rolling into Birmingham, maybe Beth?
With boundaries?
What kind of
A
boundaries?
National Guard with boundaries, probably maybe they set metrics for this is what we want to do. This is the mark we're going to meet. And when we meet this mark, we'll see if the people who are running the city are ready to do it again. But I think when you're dealing with blue dots within red states, what you have to understand, we understand this, your listeners understand this, you're dealing with people whose bottom line worldview is they're okay with death.
Wow.
And so when you're okay with death, then who cares?
Yeah.
You have 54 murders
The life
in the
doesn't mean
weekend.
much,
Life
yeah.
doesn't matter. So they'd rather defend their power than their people. And so when you have that kind of mindset, I think we are in a situation right now where I think you have to bring in the National Guard, but I would do it with boundaries. I would do it clearly outlined and then see where you go from there so that people that are freaking out. See, the other side though, is when they are safe, like in DC, suddenly they're like, Trump, because they're safe. Yeah. They're not worried about the bullets going through their window in the middle of the night or their cars or whatever it is. So I think with boundaries and with clearly defined terms, but we've got to give people a chance to feel safe in their own cities.
Yeah.
Did we just have a 82-year-old woman die of a stray bullet round on her front porch
in Birmingham?
Yeah,
I think it was on Wednesday.
Yeah,
wow.
Sure did. And that stuff's happening way too often. But 54 murders in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Baghdad during the Shia uprising of 2004, and it was a free fire zone, and we didn't have 54 deaths in a weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Washington D.C. until Trump called in. He had a higher crime rate than like Mexico City and places like that. But
I do think it's wild to think that we went to Bogota, Colombia on a mission trip years ago. And, you walk around and there's snipers on top of that's what we're about to turn into.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Not America.
Let's hope not. All right, we're about to take a break. I got to tell you, though, coming up in the next segment, we're jumping on to JP on Sports. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned for it. It's good stuff. We'll be right back.
Close. We were probably within 200 meters when we broke.
Oh, wow.
Break meaning you're diving, you're shooting, and then you break. And he said if you would have blown it up, it probably would have taken you out. So, okay.
Glad to take that all day long. Yeah. you still get credit though, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
And then there's Operation Gothic Serpent, which is heading into Somalia. Became known as the Battle of Mogadishu. A lot of your book, of course, and rightfully so, is focused on that mission. I want to dive into that for a bit because that's the one. I mean, your situation in the Battle of Mogadishu took you out of running in obscurity in terms of your personal name and thrust you into the eyes of the entire world. And I remember that. I remember when that happened. It was amazing to see it. But for those who don't recall, Operation Gothic Serpent, the intro into Mogadishu for the United States actually started under George H.W. Bush.
Correct.
But it transitioned in early 93 when Clinton took office.
Correct.
So you were there during Clinton's era, correct?
Yes.
All right. So Clinton took office in January 93. Task Force Ranger is the name of the the U.S. presence, I guess, at the airfield there. And then in October, was it October 3rd, I think? October 3rd, 93, launched what many people just refer to as Black Hawk Down, because that's the book and the movie. And I guess code word Irene was what launched the mission, right?
It was.
Which my secretary downstairs at the law firm, her name is Irene. I
Oh,
told her
really?
one day, I said, I don't know if you're aware of the use of your name in modern pop culture. And she went, I've never heard that. So anyway.
And actually, that's my character that says it in the movie.
That is your character. Yeah. And I want to talk about the movie and all that too at some point, just to get your thoughts on it. But Rangers have the mission of going in and securing some high value targets, or securing the scene so that Delta can secure the high value targets. You're part of the flight in. Who were you bringing in, by the way?
So I was the flight lead, which means I'm responsible for my whole flight of aircraft of the Ranger blocking force. So it's basically split into two pieces. We had the assault force, which is where the Delta guys are. They're primarily on little birds. Yeah. And they're going to go in first because they want the element of surprise. They want to be, busting doors down before, with limited amount of time to react, right? If you put the blocking force in first, then you bring the assault force in, the bad guys have a little bit more time to react. So they're going in first. We're right behind them. So as soon as their birds pull out, we're moving in, and I had 4 Blackhawks that made up the blocking force, plus 2 spare attack little birds, plus the search and rescue birds. So we're all coming in together on the second wave, basically. And we just set up a box. I mean, all they want is put a Ranger platoon on each corner, and the purpose is twofold. One, keep more bad guys from getting in, and then obviously we call them leakers, keeping the people you're after from getting out. And that all went pretty smoothly, even though we'd done it 6 times before. This was the 7th mission.
Right.
And, we had tremendous success. We had captured, I think, 27 people on a list of 50, taken no casualties of any significance. We didn't lose any birds. I mean, it was all going pretty well. There were 3-day missions and 3-night missions leading up to that. And this 7th mission is a day mission, which created some risk factors that we knew about, but, not my call.
Part of the job.
But yeah, the commander makes the call.
Right.
They're within tolerance, I guess you could say, and when we go, and then all hell broke loose.
Yeah, it got crazy on the ground pretty quick, didn't it?
It did.
I know we had one Ranger injured on the fast rope end, and that created the scene. And then I guess the all call went out, and it seemed like everybody in Mogadishu had an AK-47, and they all ran to the scene.
And that was their strategy, which we found out later. They actually had set up a system where once they knew where we were hitting the target, and again, they learned this over time, right? When I talk about this, I try to compare it to sports, right? If you keep running the same play, the defense is going to adapt to that play, right? They understand, okay, this formation means this is what they're going to do, so here's how we counter that. It works the same way in the military. And so having done it 6 times, they obviously understood, okay, the helicopters all go to a target. That's where, they're going to put people on the ground. They're going to try to apprehend folks. If we can pin them in there, then, we might have some chance of
Plus, they were blocking roads, so the ground convoy was having trouble.
Yep. So we found out after that was their strategy. Once they knew where the target was, they were all going to close on it, and it worked pretty well, actually.
Well, the Blackhawks stayed on station. In fact, one thing I've never known is what was the purpose of y'all? If there's going to be a ground convoy for the exfil, what was the purpose of y'all remaining on station like you did?
So we kept 2 attack little birds and 2 Blackhawks over the target for fire support. So the little birds, they've got miniguns and rockets,
right?
And they're going to be slightly further out in terms of their restricted fire areas. Where the Blackhawks were being used, and honestly, hindsight being 2020, it wasn't a great way to do this, and it's not being done anymore, at least not in urban environments. They were being used for both the miniguns, which I don't think they used the miniguns a lot, but they had snipers on board. So it's a great stable platform for the shooter, but it's a 50-something foot long target for people on the ground that have weapons. Mm-hmm. And you can't fly fast, because if you're flying fast, your shooter can't hit anything. So the speed is less than what you would fly if you were, just trying to avoid fire. We're probably flying 50 knots, right? Which may seem fast to someone on the ground, but that's really slow for an aircraft. And it makes the aircraft much more vulnerable to ground fire.
And how far above ground were you?
Very low. I mean,
Okay.
the Blackhawks had to stay 150 feet and below.
Okay.
And the Little Birds, I think, were 300 feet and above, which worked out great. I mean, we'd done it, at that point, probably 50 times counting rehearsals, and never had any close calls in terms of mid-airs.
Were you just flying racetracks?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had, when I was in Baghdad in 2004, I can remember being on a coordinated search mission in Sadr City area, and they had changed all the TTPs because the racetracks got predictable, apparently, for ground fire, and so they were flying figure eights, and they were also altitude changes, and they had gone through all kinds of machinations to try and make sure the bad guys on the ground didn't have a predictable means of assessing, where the flight was going to be.
Right. Now, my flight, because I'm not one of these 4 aircraft over the target. I've already gone in. I put my guys on the ground. But I took my flight north of the city for exactly what you're talking about. And one of the guys criticized me. He said, hey, we need to stay closer to the target so we can see what's going on. And I'm like,
said solid, conservative, and just plain right. All right, well, hour number 3 on a Friday. That's where we are. Get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. But before we get there, we got to step aside from doing the usual discussion about politics and all the usual stuff that we do on the show, and we got to jump on into some JP on sports. So JP, you may recall, is a guru of all things sports. We do this in 2 rounds. First one's called the 3 and Out. He's got the top 3 stories in sports as he sees it. And then we jump into second round, and it's called the 2-minute warning, and I've got a timer and a buzzer. So he also, by the way, has the best sound effect of all the sound effects, courtesy of sorority girls at Auburn. Hit it, bro. Nice. He smiles every time he plays it too.
What can I say?
All right, 3 and Out, dude. Take it away. What's your top 3?
All right, so the NFL season kicked off last night where the Dallas Cowboys went up and played at the Eagles, and the Eagles ended up getting the win. A major story in the sports world was the fact that Jalen Carter, the best defender on the Eagles team, was ejected after the first play, or before the first play, for spitting on Dak Prescott on the field before they even broke the huddle. I don't know much of the story there other than they just started talking back and forth, and apparently Jalen didn't like what he said and spat on him, and then he got ejected first play of the game. So that has been the main storyline in the sports world. However, in the culture world, the main story has been apparently the NFL is still doing the Black National Anthem before the games.
That's right.
And actually, I didn't know they were still doing that. I remember they started that during like the Colin Kaepernick era. And I was home and I was about to turn on the game, and I'm listening in the background and I hear that they're singing the national anthem. And I was like, that doesn't sound like the national anthem. And I realized what it was, and I turned the game off. I didn't watch the rest of the game after that. I was so annoyed. And actually, I've seen today the biggest like backlash for it in terms of, everybody was kind of walking on eggshells, afraid to call that stuff out because we saw the Colin Kaepernick thing,
the BLM riots.
Take hold of it. But now I feel like we're in a different era where people are calling it out. It's like everybody thought we were done with that crap. Like, why are we still promoting? We still got the Choose Love. What's funny is they're actually zooming in on the Choose Love behind the Eagles end zone while they were singing it. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, the NFL is so scared to stop doing that stuff because they think they're going to get swarmed with cancel culture or whatever, but I don't think they realize it's a much different time now than 2020. I mean, we just saw Trump win the popular vote by a good bit. I think they'd be just fine if they stopped doing that, but obviously they don't think so. So they're going to keep doing it, I guess.
I mean, gone are the days of like, Larry Zonka and, Mean Joe Green and all of it. And like now we're like, oh, what can we virtue signal?
Choose love.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
It's football.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that has been the main story in the culture world after last night's game. But like I said, I think that's a positive sign. And hopefully we can bully the NFL enough to stop doing it. Because I've seen bullying works with stuff like that. So maybe we just need to bully Roger Goodell in the NFL and maybe they'll stop.
Is he subject to bullying? Can he be bullied?
He actually banned Dave Portnoy from every game because Dave Portnoy was bullying him. So, who knows? Maybe I'll get banned from every NFL game after, I don't know. Hopefully Roger Goodell hears this and stops. But I don't know. We'll see. From here on out, though, I guess the rest of the season we'll have to hear the Black National Anthem before the real national anthem.
All right. 3 and Out. That's 1. What's 2?
College football. We're going into week 2. The main storylines from week 1. obviously, we'll get to Alabama in a second. But first, we have to talk about Auburn did have a great game. They won a very good game against Baylor. Jackson Arnold played very well, showed he can use his legs very well. They answered a lot of questions that people had about this Auburn team. LSU, people are saying they may be the national champion favorite now after what they did in Death Valley. Overcame adversity with some bad calls and were still able to come out with a win after that game. Tennessee looked good against Syracuse, but Florida and Georgia, they played cupcake games. So the main story, though, after week one was Alabama, and people are saying that Alabama is done and the post-Saban era is now upon us, where Alabama will be a mediocre team. First, I will say some of the things I agree it is fair to be worried about some of this stuff. About Alabama got dominated physically in that game. We didn't see Alabama at all get physically dominated in a Saban coach team. I mean, you may have seen it a little bit towards the end of Saban's career, but nothing like what we saw in the Florida State game. They couldn't handle the Florida State home field advantage for some reason, and it just did not look like a normal Alabama coach team. So I think that's fair for Alabama fans to start to get worried about. However, I don't think it's quite time yet to grab your pitchforks and call for Kalen DeBoer to be fired. I will say I'm the red flags are starting to pop up a little bit, but I will say it was week one. There's a lot of season ahead of us, and this is still a very, very talented team. Some people said it was top 2 or 3 most talented rosters in the nation. So I think there's some time to turn the ship around. However, I do think it starts to get a little worried. Maybe I think that's fair. But
see, the funny thing is, Auburn fans win a game, we're like, all right, don't get excited, man. It's one game. Bama fans lose a game, it's like the season is over.
Hey, what can you say? I mean, when you're a powerhouse like Alabama, we're not used to losing. So it's
all right, that's 2. What's 3?
We're going to get a little local here, some local sports drama, because apparently the HSAA, the high school sports mafia, I think you call them, is at it again. When are they not at it, though? I feel like they're always up to something. But anyways, the Choose Act, which has been a thing that Alabama has been fighting for how long? Forever. And they finally get this, massive school legislation. Choice. Yeah, it's a big deal. And of course, the HSAA has to find a way to ruin it somehow. And now they are banning athletes who use the Choose Act to transfer from playing in your first year. Now, I'm somebody who had to sit out a year after I transferred schools in high school. Like, that's just kind of always been the thing. But now that the legislature has worked so hard to get the Choose Act, and now it's backfiring on them because the HSAA is so narcissistic. They got to put themselves in every situation. However, though, this is a win that literally just happened about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
So apparently Kay Ivey and Ledbetter, they're suing the HSAA, but also they have filed a motion for a temporary restraining order against the HSAA over this Choose Act, and it was granted. So now,
it was granted. Starting
tonight, the Choose Act students can play and won't have to sit out. Now, will this stand? Will this stand? I hope that eventually the HSAA gets some sense knocked into them by the legislature. But yeah, that is a big one. Literally about 20 minutes ago, that motion was granted. And so now students starting tonight, Friday Night Lights, will be able to play if they use the Choose Act.
I got to add one thing to that too. The Choose Act, when it was passed, they actually named the Alabama High School Athletic Association in the bill.
Specifically.
They said AHSAA cannot stop people from using school choice money and then be blocked from playing.
And so my mom is a coach in high school, Alabama high school, and she actually sent me a screenshot. They sent out a memo yesterday.
The HSAA did?
The HSAA sent out a memo to all of their athletic departments, doubling down, saying how they're not backing down. And actually, I think a direct quote in the memo said something about what you were just referencing, where they specifically mentioned the HSAA. They said that it didn't say the word rules in that memo.
What?
And so that their interpretation is a bit different than the legislature's. So they're just going to do what they want anyways.
It said they can't do something, but it didn't say they couldn't make a rule about not doing something. So that's okay.
It didn't say the word rules in the memo. So it's open up. It's open for interpretation, obviously. And the HSA can do whatever they want. So I think they're going to get embarrassed. And I think them being granted the motion to let these players play tonight is a great first step. But I've seen the HSAA mess with so many of my friends' high school careers too, and that it's just I hope they get embarrassed and they don't do stuff like this.
Well, they're already getting embarrassed. So you said Speaker Ledbetter and Governor Ivey actually filed suit, and the injunction was granted today. That's awesome.
That's a big one.
That's also fast.
Yes,
that's really fast. I mean, As an attorney, I can tell you that's fast.
Just in time, like I said, Friday Night Lights. So hopefully those kids get to play tonight.
I wonder how many kids are going to dress out tonight that didn't think they would.
Probably a good bit. I think a good bit of kids.
I don't know how many of them are going to wind up being athletes, but we know that like within the first week of the Choose Act opening up for enrollments, they had like over 2,500 or people signing up for it within the first week. They just like flooded the system. Couldn't hardly keep up.
And the HSA said, "No, we can't have it. We can't have it. We gotta stop it."
All right, we're taking a break right now. That's round one. That was 3, wasn't it? Yeah, that was 3. That's 3. That's the 3 and out right there on JP on Sports. Brought to you, by the way, by Inspire Advisors. I'll tell you more about Inspire Advisors here in a few minutes. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
We're a contingency force at this point. I'm going north of the city where there's no threat, because if we're just doing circles up there, why would I want to be right here in the middle of this fight and put our entire flight at risk? And it was obviously the right decision to do what I decided to do. So I've got my flight and I'm north of the city. Now, north of the city is not a long distance. It's probably a mile.
Right.
And we're up there orbiting basically on standby. I mean, when you got assets like that, if you could keep them on hand as a ground force, keep them on hand, right? Because you never know when you might need some kind of helo support. And then I get called back in when the first Black Hawk gets shot down.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So you were flying what, Super 6-4?
Right.
And Super 6-1, your friend Donovan, right?
Right.
So he's the first one to go down.
And Cliff Walcott.
Yeah, and Cliff Walcott. And then you were, I think you were directed in to replace him.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, we didn't have a sniper on board. So we're going in simply to use our minigun down close to try to provide fire support for the guys on the ground. That's what our mission has now become, which that was not our mission prior to that. But again, you adapt and you do what needs to be done to try to help the force that you're supporting.
And you've got a full crew?
4, yeah. 2 crew chiefs and 2 pilots.
All right, so Super 6-1 is down. What do you remember about Super 6-1, hearing it over the air, and recognizing that one of them's already down?
Yeah, I mean, I've always called myself an eternal optimist. It never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that Cliff and Donovan would be dead. I just assumed that, they took a round, they're going down, they're going to land the aircraft somewhere, we'll get them recovered, and we'll all go debrief this thing when this is over. But obviously now we've lost a bird, which is the first time that this happens for us. There had been another Black Hawk shot down by 10th Mountain Division previously with some fatalities, but it wasn't our unit. And it, I've always used the phrase big sky, little bullet. You don't think it can necessarily happen to you until there's enough volume of fire where it's going to happen to you. And there's also a search and rescue bird shot down in the middle of all this that then heightens that even more, because now they've shot down 2 aircraft in about 5 minutes, and we're going into this fray. This is getting real, really fast. And, I remember telling the crew chiefs, because I've got control of their guns from up front. So I've got an arming switch. And I armed the guns, and I said, okay, you're armed, but we got friendlies all over the ground down here. So we can't go in here and just blasting away. When we see bad guys, we got to get situationally aware so we know where all of our forces are before you start launching 6,000 rounds a minute downrange.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in an urban environment, I don't want to say it's impossible, but right on the rooftops, it's really difficult to sort all that out. Because first of all, they're all taking cover. So, they're not standing out there waving at you. They're all taking cover. So trying to figure out where everybody was would have probably taken us a while. In the end, we only made it around 3 times when we got nailed by an RPG.
So RPG to the tail rotor, right?
Right.
In the movie, and later I want to get your thoughts on the movie, like I said, but in the movie, there's a scene where you took the RPG to the tail rotor, but initially you thought it was going to be okay until you started getting some play in the pedals and stuff like that. So what were your first thoughts, and how did that I mean?
Well, I knew we were hit, and I always tell people, if you want to know what it feels like, drive too fast in a parking lot and hit a speed bump. That's what it felt like. It felt like a jolt to the airframe, because you don't see it. Usually, what they were doing is they let us fly by, and then they emerge from the doorway and shoot. So, You're probably not going to see the launch. The crew chief might see it depending if they're looking in the right direction. And then the reason they hit both of us in the tail is they're not leading us enough. So that 50 knot magical speed was just ballistically perfect for them to shoot at the, I'm sure they're aiming for center mass.
Which the crazy thing is an RPG is not usually designed to take out aircraft.
No,
I mean,
but if you fire enough of them, eventually, they say they fired 150 at us on that mission. Now, not just at me, but on that mission. That's how many RPGs.
I never heard that. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they went all in. They thought we want to bring down a helicopter, and they were successful. So anyway, back to your question. Initially, I feel like I hit a speed bump, knew we were hit. I can see the airfield. It's 2 miles ahead of us. And looking in the cockpit, everything's okay. Controls were all responding. But what had happened was the gearbox had been blown apart, and it's like a transmission in your car, right? If you blow your transmission apart,
yeah. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Pulling pins on truth grenades. That's what we're doing. All right, we're back for round 2 of JP on Sports. This one's called the 2-minute warning. I've got a timer and a buzzer. He's got 2 minutes on any story and every story he can think of in sports. JP, my stopwatch is there. We go. Go.
So I talked about it last week. I talked about it once before, but now, as of today, the Wall Street Journal published a lot more details that we now know about this UFC White House card coming up next year. First, they were wanting to do it on July 4th, but apparently for some logistical reasons, they're not able to do it on July 4th. So it will be June 2026 will be this White House card. But here's some very interesting details, okay? So first, they've confirmed the octagon will be on the White House South Lawn. Okay, we figured that. Also, they said that the fighters before their fights will be warming up in the White House.
In the White House?
In the White House. And, so like the cars will be on Saturday, and then Friday nights they'll do the ceremonial weigh-ins in front of a crowd where the fighters will go up on the scale, flex whatever. This fighter is 155, yeah. And then this opponent comes up, they do the same thing, and then they face off in front of Dana, and it's a ceremonial thing.
Sure.
So now they said that they're going to be doing the pre-card ceremonial weigh-ins in front of the Lincoln Memorial, or on the Lincoln Memorial, I should say.
What?
Like on the top of the steps of the Lincoln Memorial is where they'll be doing their face-offs and their ceremonial weigh-ins in front of a crowd, I assume. So that makes us even more interesting. So Dana had his meeting with Trump and Ivanka last week. So I guess this is what's come of the meeting, all of these details. So Trump has, I'm sure, approved all of this. What are your first thoughts on all that?
I mean, I look at it and go, okay, wow. First of all, those parks, those places, those are the people's houses. Those are the people's monuments. It does feel a little weird, but then again, at the same time, what a cool backdrop.
Oh yeah.
And as long as they're not doing anything to, like, what I say, harm the monuments, I can't like do anything that would jeopardize the quality or the sanctity of the monument, then I think it could be actually pretty cool.
I think it's going to be cool regardless. I mean, even the fight itself, you got the Washington Monument on one side, the White House on the other. It's going to be the best backdrop.
And that's the buzzer. There it is. All right, reset the clock. That's one. Go.
So staying in the sport of combat sports, this is boxing actually, and this is just awful in my opinion. So apparently it was announced yesterday, Mike Tyson will be boxing again.
What?
Against Floyd Mayweather.
No.
Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson will be having a exhibition boxing match.
Are they on walkers, both of them?
Yeah, right. And people, they see that, and the first thing they think about is age. Obviously, they're both old and completely different generations of boxing to begin with. But also, Floyd Mayweather, he fought the highest weight that he boxed at in boxing was 148. He's like 5'8", and boxed at 148, and Mike Tyson was a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So the weight
still is.
Yeah. The weight discrepancy is massive, which I think points to it's not going to be an actual fight by any means. It's going to be a glorified sparring match, and it's a money grab. But my thing is, shame on Floyd Mayweather for this, because this is absolutely a Floyd Mayweather decision. I mean, they call him Floyd Money Mayweather for that reason, because he will do anything for money. And he's been having these tacky exhibition matches with random boxers after his professional career has been over. They've all been like glorified sparring matches. But now he's doing it with Mike Tyson. I think this taints both of their legacies, not because of whatever the result of the match will be, but the fact that they're both out of their careers and they're in such desperate positions, obviously, that they have to box each other for money. Like, it's an awful look, in my opinion. It's not going to be a real boxing match at all. But yeah, it looks like Mike Tyson.
Don't have to worry about knocking a tooth out because they don't have any teeth left.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I think this is a bad look. It's tacky. I think a lot of people after seeing Mike Tyson and Jake Paul's thing are just kind of like, we're over it. So I think, like I said, I think this is 100% a Floyd Mayweather decision.
And there you go. Oh, wow. Floyd Mayweather. I mean, okay, no, 2 minutes. Starts. Go.
All right. So I'm going to keep talking about this story. Anytime something comes up that's interesting about it. But Bruce Pearl saying interesting comments again. Apparently he went on I believe it was Andy Katz's show. I could be wrong. Went on a sports podcast and was talking about, apparently he's got a 5-year contract that he just signed recently with Auburn. He's got 5 more years on it. And he said, he does not think he's going to last the rest, all of those 5 years. He goes, I will not be coaching for much longer. And he talked like that's pretty much a decision he's already made, that he will not be on the plains for much longer. At the very least, he won't be there for 5 years. But that sounds like something that somebody about to go into their last year says, honestly. Yeah. And there was a lot of talk about Bruce Pearl running for Tuberville's Senate seat. But there's a lot of issues with him giving money to Democrats pretty recently. So I think, well, my personal opinion, I think Bruce Pearl wanted to run this past time, found out he couldn't run as a Republican, so now he'll be waiting until the next midterm and will be running as a Republican then, and that'll give enough time that between him giving money to Democrats and then he'll be all good to go rules-wise.
Well, here's something for you. There are strong indications, strong rumors that Congressman Mike Rogers, who has the 3rd congressional district, I believe, which includes Auburn, is not going to run again. So that would be interesting, and that's coming up. It's not been announced, but there's like the rumors.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I could see him being the ambassador to Israel.
That is something too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, it's just funny to me because somebody who just went to a Final Four is one of the top coaches in college basketball. Is getting a lot of money from Auburn, way more money than he would make as a politician. Is openly saying as a for sure thing, like, yeah, I really just don't think I'm going to last these 5 years. Like, that's not something coaches like that say. So it's interesting. The story is getting more interesting. But like I said, I think that is what it is. I think he wanted to run this time, couldn't, so he'll run again in the future.
All right. Reset the clock. You got time for one more?
Got about 1 minute.
Go for it.
All right. So Ryan Clark, this commentator who is back in the news again, he's an ESPN commentator. This is the guy that said that Shedeur Sanders fell as far as he did because NFL owners are intimidated by a confident young black man. He's also said a lot of other crazy things like that. It's too long for me to, of a list to talk about here, but just look it up. But he went on ESPN Get Up and said that he doesn't think that Peyton Manning or Tom Brady were generational talents at quarterback. And you look at that and you're like,
didn't think they were generational talents.
If they're not generational talents, then who is?
Who is?
Who is, right? He actually said that I think Andrew Luck, he said, is one he considers a generational talent. There was another quarterback that was like good, but not Tom Brady or Peyton Manning good. But this is just the I think this shows the ESPN product is getting worse and worse by the day. I don't even watch ESPN anymore. This is somebody who grew up and every morning before school, I was eating cereal, watching Sports Center back in the day when like there were guys who were actually like knew the sports and loved the sports. Now these people are chasing headlines. They're talking about if Arch Manning is a generational quarterback when he's a sophomore who just had his first start. Like this, they're chasing headlines. They're trying to get clout with what they say. And Ryan Clark is clearly an idiot, and he just proved it again.
I think you got everything you needed out of that one.
So there you go.
You squeezed 2 minutes into 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. JP on Sports, brought to you by Inspire Advisors. I'll tell you more about them in just a minute. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
Not for very long. Once
gonna
those
coast in at
gears,
that point, yeah.
once those gears, run without oil for any period of time, they're going to self-destruct. And that's what happened. And then when the tail rotor left the aircraft, again, that's impossible to describe. If you haven't experienced it, I can't describe it. I mean, it's just violent spin of the aircraft, out of control.
What do they call that? Counter rotation or something where you're trying to restore?
Yeah,
stability.
Well, the tail rotor is there to counter the torque of the main rotor
Right.
system. Again, if you think about a drill, people are familiar with that. You pull the trigger, you can feel it want to turn. That's torque. So the same thing's happening to a helicopter, obviously with a lot more force. The tail rotor is mounted horizontally to push against that force that's wanting the airframe to spin. Once that tail rotor is gone, there's nothing. So essentially, if you were left affected by anything else, what would eventually happen is the airframe, minus wind drag, obviously, would be spinning as fast as the rotor blades are in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
That's essentially once it reaches equilibrium. That will never happen, but that's how much force you're talking about here. And I remember looking at my feet, trying to convince myself, you're doing the right thing in terms of which pedal you're pushing, but it is having no effect on the aircraft. And then I'm like, okay, we lost the tail rotor. You know, again, this is something you can't train that. There's no, you can't do it in a simulator. I mean, we can do a loss of tail rotor in a simulator, but you can't do the violent effects, the physical violent effects of the airframe in a simulator. But I knew what had happened, and the only thing you can do is shut the engines off, because again, that's what's creating that torque. So if you can remove that force, it'll stop that spin, but now you have no engines.
Yeah.
So that's not good either, especially at low altitude. But it's what you have to do. You can't possibly maintain control of the aircraft if it's just spinning out of control. So in a Black Hawk, we don't have control of the engines on the flight controls. So the co-pilot or the non-flying pilot has to shut the engines off. So I looked over at Ray and I said, we lost the tail. We better pull them off. And he knew he was an experienced guy. I actually had more experience than I did, and pulled the engines off. But we're spinning so fast that he said, and we talked about it on the ground afterwards, typical instructor pilots. He said, we're spinning so fast, the centrifugal force was causing him to not be able to lift his arms up over his head, which is where the engine power control levers are. So he got one to idle and got one about halfway off, which slowed the spin but didn't stop it. And now, with no engine power, we're falling out of the sky like a Coke machine. And all I could do is try to keep the aircraft from flipping upside down, which, again, I don't know if anything I did made a difference, honestly, but all I can tell you is we crashed right on the wheels. And that's the only reason I'm still here.
All right, so you're on impact. Now, you said something on the ground. Did Ray make it?
Yeah,
okay.
We all survived the crash.
Okay.
The crew chiefs were hurt really bad because they don't, first of all, they don't have as good as seats, at least in that version of the aircraft. It's been improved since. And they're probably not strapped in, meaning, they operate on what we call monkey harnesses back there.
Yeah.
So they're on a strap, but they're not strapped into their seats, which have, all of the crash survivability.
I use those as a jump master in Blackhawks.
Because it allows you to move around and do the things you need to do. And, you get in the seat when you have to land. Well, they didn't, obviously we're not planning to land, so they're probably not strapped in, or at least not likely that they're both strapped in. So, that violent crash, they were probably not going to make it. But Ray, I mean, he was not hurt as bad as I was. And we're talking, once I regained consciousness, we're talking about what happened, and there was no reason to talk about what happened. We should have been talking about, hey, the heck, we're going to survive the next 5 minutes here. But we did, and that's when he explained what he had tried to do. And then he was able to get himself out of the cockpit. There's no way I could get out. I had a femur fracture, crushed vertebrae in my spine. It's hard to get out of a Black Hawk cockpit when you're healthy. Mm-hmm. With those injuries, there's no way. So I just thought, I'm just going to fight it out from the cockpit.
I did not recall that your co-pilot had made it, but they didn't survive. Am I correct?
Well, they were killed in a fire.
Yeah, they're all. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all will talk about this show. This show goes from from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga, from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning! And big old patches in North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going to the World Wide Web. Yeah, the other side is the radio footprint. But then there's all y'all going to live stream and places like X and Rumble and YouTube and Facebook and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And yeah, just checking stuff out through the live stream. And then there's the podcasters who catch it after the fact. Listen, the bottom line is this. We love you. We appreciate you. The fact that y'all find this show and listen to it, no matter where you do, means the world to us. You're the reason why we do it. Thank you very much. Hey, I got to tell you about Inspire Advisors. So Inspire Advisors, Paul Breyer and his team at Inspire Advisors do an amazing job of helping people find the way to invest and then also be really proud about who they invest in. So they are the sponsors every Friday of the JP on Sports segment. But Inspire Advisors, they are into what's known as biblically responsible investing. Very cool. They can help you, yes, have a good return on your investment, but yes, also look at companies and know what they stand for and make sure that you're not investing in something that you would never want to stand next to in public. So that being said, Inspire Advisors would love to help you by giving you a look at what you can invest in, help you maybe to see how your current portfolio is standing up in terms of BRI, Biblically Responsible Investing. Go to their website, ask for an opportunity to talk. It's www.moneypatternwealth.com. That's www.moneypatternwealth.com. Paul Breyer, his team at Inspire Advisors. And do me a favor, tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. There you go. Hey, text lines, y'all. Listen, we're going to catch up on some text. We had Allison and Amy Beth in the studio, so I haven't even gotten to the text lines hardly at all today. But the number is 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. Tell me your thoughts. Today we have talked about Blue City, Red State. Today we have talked about, Amy Beth and Allison, kind of their personal story about like just getting active in their community and making a difference. We talked about Pastor Jamel Brown. In fact, I did see Stan McDonald, the attorney who sponsors the Rightside Way. He texted me a little while ago and he goes, "It's a God-grown weed."
Exactly. I hate that argument too. It's like, yeah,
it's a God-grown weed.
God made poison ivy too. You want to smoke that? Like, by all means, go ahead.
Wow.
Like, yeah, that argument's so funny to me.
Yeah.
Ain't never hurt nobody.
Ain't never hurt nobody.
Cocaine and never hurt nobody.
God made horseflies. They bite.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So what a stupid argument. Joe in Tennessee says, Jamel Brown reminds me of an early Robin Williams skit. He's a graduate of the Leroy Funkified Bad Arse School of Soul. I got to look that up. I didn't recall that.
I haven't either.
Robin Williams skit. That's awesome. I've been saying that he reminds me of a Saturday Night Live skit. It
is comedy. I mean, he's not even going to win the Democratic primary. I mean, he may have like some folk.
Does he have any competition?
Yeah. Well, somebody texted in earlier, one of the other guys running. I couldn't remember his name last show, but yeah, Chig Martin, I know is one of them.
Chig Martin, that's right.
But there's another one. God, somebody sent it in as a text. I can't find it now, but yeah, I think he's got two opponents in the Democratic side right now.
Wow. John from Huntsville.
Will
was
Boyd.
checking in.
Will Boyd.
Oh, Will Boyd. That's right. Is Will Boyd in the race?
He is.
Okay. Will Boyd, how many times does he run for something?
Too much.
Yeah. John from Huntsville checking in. Thank you, John. We were aware of that, and JP's already taking care of it. JT from Lacey Springs says, I've only heard minutes of the show this week, sadly. Even now, busy. However, on topic or not, enjoyed the verified attachment. And he sent something to me. What does it say? It's a meme, and it has a meteorologist named Clement Ragg naming cyclones after politicians he disliked so he could report that they were causing great distress or wandering aimlessly. That's interesting. He said that's the reason why we now have hurricanes and cyclones with human names. I've never heard that story before. You ever heard that?
I've not. My meteorologist brother has never told me that story before.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Brother meteorologist, we need to make sure he knows that.
Yeah.
Send him that meme.
I will.
Mark from Florence says, I'm sorry, but the wrestling on the White House lawn has some major idiocracy vibes. Wow.
I can understand that. Like, I fully understand people that think that. But like I said, I think that this just goes along. Trump is a very theatrical person, and I think he sees this as celebrating America and celebrating America through a sport that he's great friends with, the owner of, Dana White. But I can understand what that person's coming from.
And let's be honest, he couldn't have played 18 holes of golf on the White House lawn.
Nope.
He couldn't have had a football game on the White House lawn. He couldn't put in the diamond for and still have an outfield for a baseball game. So this one fits in the space allowed.
It does. And like I said, him and Dana White have gone way back.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. But I do think it's an interesting conversation, though.
Dana White, I remember he actually flew back from a family vacation. Yep. I think they were in England or something,
like
overseas.
Italy or something.
Yeah, someplace. He flew back to speak on Trump's behalf at the RNC, I believe.
Yeah, and he actually said, he goes, "I'm completely done with politics after this. The only reason I entered is because Donald Trump actually, when they were banned nationwide from having their events, he opened up their Taj Mahal event for the UFC to have somewhere to go and fight at."
I didn't know that.
And Donald Trump, according to Dana White, he sat and watched the first fight to the very end of the event. And before, state legislatures started to allow them to come, Donald Trump was the only one that opened their doors for them. So I think Dana saw that as he owed Trump one when he ran for president.
But they've also become good friends, is what I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very cool. John from Lexington, South Carolina says, as a University of Washington alumni and a big fan of my Huskies, I wish nothing but bad for Coach DeBoer and the Crimson Tide. Go Huskies and War Eagle. Wow. Wow. There's some angst attached to that text.
I'd be mad too. I can understand.
Good Lord. Dave from Capshaw says, it ain't working, NFL. Choose love, spit on the opponent. It ain't working.
No, it's not.
I know.
Jalen Carter did not choose love.
He did not choose love. Is he out for how long is he out?
I don't know. The NFL still needs to rule on if he'll be suspended. I think he needs to be suspended. You can't just spit on players like that's. And the ref was standing right there too, so it was stupid.
And it was before the first play.
Yeah, they had just kicked it off and they were doing their pre-snap huddles and just said, "Hey, Dak," and talked some trash and spit on him. So
God, that's so classless too, man.
Yeah.
Mike from Huntsville says, hey, Phil, is there any legal reason why the governor couldn't deal with the crime problem in Birmingham? There is not per se. Now, Kay Ivey is really not fully engaged right now, I don't think. But we've got the legislature last year running a bill to authorize the use of National Guard or maybe I take it back. It was a bill to remove the police chief and replace him. That's what it was. But Kay Ivey could call up the National Guard herself right now if she wanted to. What she has to do first is declare an emergency. Now, she's the commander-in-chief of the National Guard in Alabama. She can call them up if she needs to, if she sees grounds to do it. The interesting dynamic is, I would say Birmingham leadership doesn't want it. And here's, by the way, we talked about Blue City, Red State. One of the reasons why Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson and Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, why they are so resistant to Trump? Not just because it's Trump. They also know that what will happen is Trump will come in there, make things safer, and it will be shown clearly that it took Trump coming in to do it, that their policies weren't doing it. That's what they're afraid they'll look bad when he actually does some good stuff. And that's why, listen, I will give some measure of props to Mayor Muriel Bowser of Washington, D.C. She is not by any stretch a conservative. She is not going to be a Republican tomorrow, but she has a level of acceptance, I would say, in this whole thing. We had David Axelrod, who was a Obama-era advisor, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Obama? I think it was Obama.
I believe so, yeah.
David Axelrod yesterday said, with regards to Governor J.B. Pritzker, he said he needs to just go ahead and say, we'll accept the help. Because he said, why would you not? And all you got to do is say, hey, you know what? Somebody wants to help us. We'll take it. And then say, under these parameters, we would like the help. You know what? Then you'll be the hero, J.B. Pritzker. Then you're not the one who's saying, all you got to do is say, high crime, people are dying. Mr. President, if you'll send that National Guard, we'll take them.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that were to happen, if how the city or the residents of Birmingham will take Woodfin saying, yeah, we just had an 83-year-old great-grandmother shot by a stray bullet when she was just sitting on her front porch and doing nothing wrong, and she got hit. And but we don't need your help. Birmingham's safe.
Yeah.
That's not a great look.
Second highest per capita murder rate in the nation. 11 times the national average in Birmingham. In Birmingham. Shoot. Anyways, it's asinine. Hey, by the way, look this up for me, JP, while I'm talking. I believe that Governor J.B. Pritzker called up the National Guard for like augmentation of police, I think around elections. I'm not positive. I know Governor Kathy Hochul did. The liberal, snark who's working right now as the governor of New York State. She actually called out the National Guard to make the subways safer in New York City because of all the murders. And then don't ever forget, by the way, after 9/11, the National Guard was everywhere. We had National Guard. I remember going to, I forgot which airport it was. It may have been in New York, actually. And there were still National Guardsmen standing guard duty in subway stations back then because, granted, it was necessary. It was a national security issue. But the Guard gets called up to maintain order and to assist with law enforcement. They just do. Did you find anything on that?
I unfortunately can't, because all the stories and headlines are Pritzker whining about Trump potentially saying the National Guard now.
Yeah, it's hard to do a search engine because it's all counter story right now. Molly from Huntsville says, my cousins who work for UAB complain about the taxes. The city citizens are not the workers and are not the upstanding citizens you would want for a city. Those that pay the mayor's salary live outside the city for safety and competent schools, etc. Wow. Okay. So I you know what? She makes a great point. Molly does. Molly, thanks for the text. She's making a great point. I would say that the population of the city of Birmingham probably doubles during the workday because that's what happens. We dealt with an issue. We used to hate it when we call them local bills. When a local bill would come up just about either Jefferson County or the city of Birmingham when I was in the legislature, we would hate it because it was always something that like, God, would you please stop? But the Birmingham delegation, they would put stuff in, and one of them they tried to do was set their own occupational tax rate higher than anybody else. Oh, no, they take it back. It was minimum wage. They wanted to raise the minimum wage in Birmingham alone, and it was going to crush business. And we pointed out, occupational tax is more often people who are driving into work, and then minimum wage, well, that's people who are working right now in like McDonald's. Well, the McDonald's is going to close, and they're going to move it out to, somewhere else like Bessemer or, Mountain Brook or something. You're just going to crush business. They can't figure this stuff out.
They can't govern, obviously.
They can't govern. Jeff Rowe from Indiana real quick says, hey, Phil, maybe that's because everyone in Nashville's on weed. I don't know what we were talking about, but okay. I guess we're talking about safety in blue cities. Last couple, then we'll go to the break. Jay from Killen, Alabama. Have I got a call on the line? I don't. Okay. Jay from Killen, Alabama says, Will Boyd, Democrat Party. And he gives me his background. Okay. And his profession is he's a patriarch and an international presiding bishop of Zion Ministries. Interesting. Okay. And then Tom with all the kids said, the Lord says, be not afraid, go adoption. Thank you, ladies, for making a difference. Talking about the ladies who were here a while ago. All right, we got to take a break. We got to, because we're running out of time. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We all stay tuned. We will be right back. I remember that now. All right, you're still stuck in the cockpit. I remember, I'm assuming it was when I read it, that you had a kind of an off the books weapon. Didn't you have an MP5 or something like that? Mm-hmm. Was that standard issue, or was that
for us?
Yeah, it was. Okay.
Yeah, we used the MP5. They don't use it anymore, I don't think. But that was our. We had an M9 pistol and an MP5.
So you wound up having to engage targets yourself while you're on the ground in the cockpit?
Actually, not from the cockpit. That's one area where Black Hawk Down deviates from what actually happened. I mean, I did consult a little bit on the movie, but really not much. I guess if they're going to exaggerate something and make you look better than you actually were, that's a good thing. But yeah, they have me, blasting away from the cockpit. It was amazing how quickly Gary Gordon and Randy Sugart got to the cockpit. There were no Somalis there yet. And that's why I hadn't fired any rounds. I had my MP5. I was ready to go, but nobody had showed up. And then all of a sudden, Gary and Randy are standing next to the cockpit. And I'm like, wow, this is over. There's a rescue force here.
Which is an amazing story in itself. I mean, both of them wound up with the Medal of Honor posthumously. But I recall reading that they both requested 7 times to be put on the ground, knowing full well that there was only going to be 2 of them and no telling how long till any guys in the Rangers got there.
You're right about all of that. And again, I only know about it secondhand because obviously I'm not on the aircraft with them. but they were told initially no, and eventually convinced the leadership that if they were not let in, we were lost. And you know, you don't know what's in the mind of someone else, but they had to know, hey, this is going to be dicey at a minimum, because it took 8 hours for another American to get to our crash site.
Yeah, which is crazy when you think about the fact that as you were going down, you could see the airfield roughly 2 miles away, and yet it took 8 hours for anybody to get there.
And it's because, well, we were resource constrained, and there were so many things happening. You had 6-1's crash site, you had the convoy, you had the target, now you had my crash site. So really, the commander's got 4 things that he's got to deal with, and he didn't even really have the resources for one.
By the way, I'm going to chase a rabbit real quick. I don't know if you heard this yet, but you know the whole base renaming thing that happened.
I was going to bring this up
about Gary Gordon.
Yeah. And it's a brilliant solution. And I just read it a couple days ago.
Yeah. For those who don't know, that Fort Gordon was one of the names that nobody knew was apparently tied to a Confederate. I didn't know that Benning was. I didn't know that Rucker was. I just went and trained there, you know, as I'm sure you probably did. But Fort Gordon got renamed to something, but Fort Gordon's getting its name back for your rescuer, Gary Gordon.
Right.
Yeah. That's I think that's pretty. Now we got to find a Fort Shugart somewhere.
Yeah. They might have to create one. Yeah.
What do you recall about Shugart and Gordon being on the ground? I mean, I've read their story separately. I've read it in your book, but give me and the listeners, when they got on the ground and were talking, what were your thoughts? What was the conversation?
It was brief, you know, purely mission focused. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They knew, hey, look, we got to get him out of the cockpit, meaning me, because I'm too vulnerable there. I'm sitting up, basically up off the ground, elevated, and so that was one of the primary things they wanted to get done, is get me out of there, and then essentially, as well as I could, set up a perimeter. Now, the way the geography of this crash site was, there was a wall right to the right. The nose is pointing forward as I'm sitting here, and there's a wall right to the right. Now it's just a corrugated tin wall, basically, but still, there's no way for someone to access the site from there. So I believe their decision was, we're going to go secure the left side, put me on the right, and that is in fact where the attack primarily came from, was the left side. So I can hear it, and then I could see Somalis, onesie twosies. I fired all the rounds in my weapon at the Somalis that tried to come in on the right side, but the bulk of the attack came from the left side.
How long were Shugart and Gordon in the mix? I mean, how long until they were actually taken?
It's hard to say. I know there's an official timeline somewhere. I honestly don't recall. You know, time is so hard to judge when things are in that state of chaos. I would say probably 10 minutes, maybe 15, from the time they showed up to the side of the aircraft to, you know, Gary went down first, and at that point, Randy's almost out of ammunition already. And he came around and he asked me where the crew chief's weapons were, and I told him, and he went in, grabbed one, and then he gave me what I believe was Gary's weapon, which still had rounds in it, because I had fired all the rounds out of my MP5. And then he went around the nose of the bird. He made a quick radio call, and we were told on the radio that a reaction force was en route. Again, cause for a little bit of optimism here. Yeah. And then he went and made his last stand.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. Got a brand new texter in the string. I see him in there. Kelly from Killen. I don't know if it's Kelly male, Kelly female. So, hey, Kelly, tell us if you're male or female so we can mark it, and we don't call you he or she the wrong way. But yeah, thank you very much. He says, absolutely love the freaking show, guys. So thank you very much, Kelly from Killen. The grades are in. The grades are in from John. He says, Phil, JP, and all of his guests are today's co-winners with a perfect A++. Congratulations, everybody. By the way, JP, make sure you fill out your football pick'ems. He ain't playing on the pick'ems, man.
I will. Maybe I can beat John this week.
There you have it. All right. Oh, and by the way, Kelly from Killen is male. So put that in parentheses right after. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate you. I had a feeling when I saw Love the Frickin' Show that was going to be a guy.
Yeah. So. You never know, though.
It just felt like it.
You never know.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, I'm going to the phones because you know who's on there. Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy. How you doing?
I'm in Kentucky.
You're all the way to Kentucky? Wow.
I'm all the way past Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm doing good today.
Good. So you've already passed by the Corvette Museum, huh?
Well, yeah, the city of the Vet Museum. I turn off before I get quite to there.
Okay. Well, that's great, man. You're going to get home in time for a decent Friday night. That's good.
Yeah, it's karaoke night, man. We got to go sing.
All right. If you're at karaoke night, I want to know, what's your musical genre? Are you a country guy, a rock guy? What are you playing?
Oh, we sing Billy Idol. Yeah.
Nice day for a white wedding. That's great. Oh, we've talked about a lot of stuff today, man. We had the ladies in here. We talked about Blue City, Red State. We talked about Pastor Jamel Brown and all of it. So what's your thoughts?
Well, the blue cities and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I there's got to be a study out there somewhere that I think liberalism is a mental illness, basically. Because you see all those people gravitate toward things that are almost like lemmings. You know, they're told what to do, and if the prisons, I guess I'd like to see what the rate of incarceration for Democrats versus Republican or conservative people. Anything that you can, they get triggered. When is the last time you seen a Republican get triggered? And just lose their mind.
I know we get irritable, but I don't think we get triggered like they do. I mean, like Antifa is bringing a daggum a guillotine out in front of the Portland federal courthouse. And I'm thinking, nobody on the right does that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware. Well, they did have a hangman's noose, I guess, at the insurrection.
So they say. Was it planted? I don't know.
They say.
What I know is we get grannies arrested for praying in front of abortion clinics, but they can put a guillotine in front of the courthouse and call it done.
Yeah, I know. But I'd like to see if there's got to be a study out there somewhere. I'd like to know the numbers of people that's that's like calling Miss Cleo. I don't think her clientele was very much on the right. I think it's pretty much, hey, man, call me for your palm reading here. I think that's pretty much these old Democrat ladies are sitting around calling her.
But was it that long ago when Stephen Miller talked about all the protesters and called them a bunch of aging white hippies?
Yeah, and he was dead on.
He was dead on,
sure
and they hated that he was right, but there it was.
Yeah. I mean, you can categorize these things and everything if it's certain people fit certain criteria and everything, and that's just the way it is. It's not racist or anything else to call these people out if they fit the criteria.
No, it's true. And what's interesting, JP made the point earlier in the show. It's like, for a while there, no one was allowed to point out, how ridiculous the counter racism was. But now people are calling it out. And I think there's been this era of common sense that Trump called it. And it's coming back that we're allowed to actually say that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's like the Black National Anthem. What nation is that? I thought you had to have a nation to have an anthem, but where's this located at?
Yeah, it is counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, there's no
nation.
There's no nation to the
How
national
can it be
anthem.
national? I don't know. If they bring out the Black national flag next, then I'm gonna be really upset. Then I'm gonna have the Asian flag and the Hispanic flag, and goodness knows. It's
I want to hear the white national anthem. Boy, wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that won't go down that'd be like a turd in a punch bowl, man. That won't be allowed.
No.
Well, brother, I am glad the music's playing, so that means we're done. But I am glad you called in with plenty of time, and you also, by the way, are almost home. So be safe, and we'll have a good weekend. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Oh, have a good weekend.
You too, man.
Have a good one.
All right, that was Jeff from Indiana, and this is Rightside Radio. And remember what I always say. Oh, by the way, there's more of us than there are of them. God is still on his throne. And oh, by the way, stay in the fight. We'll see y'all Monday.